Okay. You got your stuff up, good.
Can they see the screen or do you need to share it? If there's anyone joining remotely.
You probably need to share it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They won't be able to see it.
Yeah.
Could you just tilt that monitor up, maybe Libby was going there? Just tilt it up.
It's the same thing, it's in front of you, so. You can
Where's,
have tilt a bit for the audience.
That's fine.
Well, do we have to give you? Are you in here and you need permission to share?
There.
They're on here.
Screen. So I think you're just need to share application.
You might be better at getting it to go than me. I'm not a Mac person, so I always struggle.
Me neither.
Can't find my way around.
Ready to go.
Sorry, I invited.
Well, two hot topics, the bridges and the
Yeah.
town forest.
See that screen.
Who's in the audience? Is there somebody up there? If, John, can you see on yours the presentation? Is it showing yet?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's working. Great. Yeah, I had office hours. Coming right from there.
Oh.
Yes, Mary and I.
We got here like 5:30.
Manager
Are
Mary.
you able to go in there then? Sure.
No, I can, see if anybody is. That question. Chat, whatever.
She can never go down.
You don't want to be down there every week?
What's that?
You don't want to be there every week?
I was there, Susan.
Actually.
No, not.
Yeah, no.
Right, whatever.
I was just kidding. From rotation's good. Yeah.
I go down every week. I get my. Here.
There's good part.
Back to the.
From here. She has. Friend of hers, like, I developed here.
Some ribs.
Well, I don't wanna have it. Not how much. Unless they're reversed. Yeah, the only thing, could you read the? So like, we're so let's say. This weekend or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just.
Yeah. Right. It was just being my son. Yeah. Yeah. What? I'm cleaning. I think we probably got them too. Right. You don't have to say. The last one. It's reading is great. Yeah. But it, yeah. I know, I've had trouble with it. We're gonna have the surgery.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
It being 6:01, I'm gonna call this regular select board meeting to order. Select board member Shernock will be here momentarily. Is there any need to adjust the agenda, Manager Mary?
There is not.
Okay. Public participation schedule, we have Laura Stone, who's from the Vermont Agency of Transportation, talking to the board tonight regarding Coxbrook Road cover bridges. Laura,
Do you want me to sit
if
up?
you could stand up or whatever's easier for you, so.
Hi, so I'm Laura Stone with V-Trans, the project manager through the scoping phase of this project. We also have Gary Sweeney tonight. He's going to be the design project manager moving forward. So we were here about a year ago to gather local concerns about these 3 bridges. We went back to the drawing board. We took those concerns into consideration and came up with a scope of work. So we have Hoyle Tanner. They are the covered bridge experts in Vermont. They have done the scoping effort and will continue with design on these bridges. And so I'm going to introduce Hoyle Tanner to come up and present the scoping effort.
All right. Thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate it. I recognize a lot of faces here, as Laura mentioned. As Laura mentioned, we were here previously. We had the local concern meeting, and today we're coming up with some solutions with recommendations that we're proposing to the town, the select board, to take from here and move forward. We have a lot of information tonight. I'm going to do some of the slides. Kelly Levine from our office, she's the senior project engineer. She's going to come in halfway through the presentation and she's going to take over, and then I'll do the end and then we'll wrap up. So we have 3 projects, as you know, 3 covered bridges. We're gonna do the first one. Then if you let me finish all the slides that I got, we'll take any questions at the end of the first one, and then Kelly's gonna take the next one, and then we'll take a break with the questions when she's done, and then I'll do the last one. So a lot of information here. I think we got like 100-something slides, but some of them are gonna go very quick. So from our office, we also have Todd Sumner here. So he's the senior bridge engineer that helping us on those 3 projects here. So the first, let me see if this works.
I can do the slides if you want to.
Yeah, that was working before.
Is it on?
Yeah. I could just use the arrow here. Why is it not doing
Cost.
There
There you go.
it? There you go. So presentation outline, we have the purpose and need. We're gonna go over the purpose and need. We're gonna go over the background of the projects. Inspection findings, there's nothing new there. This is the old information that we were here previously during the local concern meeting. And then we're gonna present some solutions, some options for the town to choose from. And then we're gonna touch on the right of the way, utilities, fire protection. We have some recommendations on the fire protection, summary. We have a cost for each of the project and then anticipated schedule. And then, as I mentioned earlier, at the end of each project, we're gonna take a short break to answer the questions from all of you. So normally I don't like to read the slides, but this is the exception. This is the only slide that I'm gonna read tonight. The rest of it, I'm just gonna talk about it. So the purpose of the project is to provide a safe crossing over Coxbrook and Dogger River for the traveling public. We also need to address the structural deficiencies and ongoing deterioration, and then also extend the bridge's service life for many decades to come. The need for the project is to require rehabilitation to continue and meet the needs of the community. So this is basically the backbone of all the work that we do, and this is what we're trying to achieve. Just to orient ourselves, here's a map we have on the upper left of the screen. I can't point with a laser, it doesn't work on the LCD screen, but we have the upper covered bridge, and then halfway between upper and the falls, we have the lower, and then at the very left, at the very right of the screen over Dogger River, we have the falls covered bridge in there. So I'm sure you all know where they are, but just for completeness, we figure we throw a map here. So we're gonna start with upper first. This is a beautiful view, looking from the downstream, looking upstream. a lot of bedrock exposed everywhere. The foundations are founded directly on bedrock. The bridge was constructed in 1872. There were two documented rehabs in 1967 and 1979. It's been 47 years that the bridge hasn't seen any major work done. There's been some maintenance that constantly get hit from oversized vehicles, and the town constantly has to repair them, but nothing major since 1979. The bridge was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1974. The length of the structure is about 54 feet. It's a quint post. That's a type of truss that we have here, which comprises of the top chord, bottom chord, and then two main diagonal members that connect the top to the bottom. The horizontal clearance is just over 13 feet, and the vertical clearance is the 12-foot posted. It's a little bit taller than 12 foot, but the posting is for 12 foot. And the weight limit is for 6 ton for single axle, 8 ton for tandem, and then 11 tons for gross. Those are the posted signage on each approach. Substructures consist of reinforced concrete abutment directly on bedrock. Normally, we don't get any plans on those historic covered bridges. We're lucky to have some plans, but this is one of the plans from 1970s that we found. Not a whole lot of information, but we have enough to get started and get a rough idea as to what the rehabs were done in the previous decade. So we'll take whatever we have. Normally, like I said, normally we'd be lucky to get anything. So we'll take the plans that we have. Based on the inspection that we've done on the bridge, we give it an overall rating of a 4 on the scale of 1 to 9. 1 being the worst and 9 being the best. So you had a 4, the 4 condition. The deck is a 5. The superstructure is a 4. If we drill down deep into each individual component, and the substructure is a 6. So we've taken the worst one, we've taken the superstructure, which is the steel beams, the covered bridge itself. That's a 4, which is a poor condition. And the channel itself, it's got nice alignment with a bedrock, not much scour on each approach. So that's a very good rating at 8 on the scale of 1 to 9. So we're gonna go from top down with a metal roof. We're gonna start at the top, and then we're gonna work our way down. What we saw when we inspected portions of the roof, we saw a lot of screws that had the rubber gaskets. And normally on the standing seam, you need to conceal all the connectors, all the screws. You're not supposed to have anything exposed to the environment, because those rubber gaskets, it doesn't take much. They're gonna crack, they're gonna break, and then water is gonna work its way in. So that was one thing that we noted, that it was not ideal to have those exposed screws at the very top there, as seen on the photos here. Working our way down, we have the roof boards. You see some breaks on the roof board. That's the horizontal member. And you can see that big knot. Next to the knot, there was a break. On the photo on the right, you could see a couple of rafters that got some major splitting on the end of the rafters. Upper bracing, the photo on the upper left, you could see the tape there. You could see about 6 inches shift on that member on the top that's been hit by oversized vehicle and kind of shifted that member. On the photo on the right, you could see a break. You could see some rot into that brace that braces the rafter support beam that supports the rafter. Truss members, you got a variety of deficiencies. You got some breaks, you got some rots, you got some high moisture content. So all those photos there, you could see the one on the upper right. You can see the tape on the top board. It's about 6.5, 7 inches in, and it's a deep pocket of rot on that upper cord on the east truss. The photo on the lower left, you can see the end of the diagonal member going to the bottom cord. You could see a lot of debris, a lot of moisture. The moisture, you can't really read it, but it's reading about 50%. Normally on wood, we want to keep everything under 20%, but that particular reading that we took on the lower parts, it was 50%. So that high moisture content promotes the rotting that we've seen on the lower portions of the bridge. Steel beams, beyond repair. You could see a lot of rusting. When we completed the inspection, the town had to actually come back and do some repairs here. They had to put another ladder column on one of the beams because we had some concerns with the carrying capacity of that beam, but that work was done shortly after we found those deficiencies and the town took care of that. But those beams are beyond repair. You can't repair them. There's a lot of section losses, a lot of extensive corrosion that we've seen on those steel beams. Portals, you've seen this every day when you drive them. They constantly get hit. Before I got here to the meeting tonight, I stopped by the bridges and I saw more fresh breaks that people just keep hitting them. And the town is faced with a lot of time and money that you spent on having the road agent here come every so often and do repairs. And part of the truss, it looked like it also got hit recently. And I'm gonna compare some photos to what we previously have. And it looked like some of that is shifted off the bearing block. So based on what I saw tonight, I think we're gonna make a recommendation to go there and add some bearing blocks underneath it because part of the bottom cord is not even supported on the bearing blocks down below. It looks like a recent damage that was done. And I have to go back in the office tomorrow and then we'll coordinate with Laura if we need to do any repairs that we recommend to the town. Approach rail, it's a weathering steel W-beam rail. And you can see the photo on the left, it's rusted right through it. You can see a big hole and it's beyond repair. We need to replace and we need to do something better than what was previously done. Abutments, they're mostly in good condition. They have some issues. They're relatively minor issues. You see on the photo on the right where that number 8 bar comes down where it's supposed to anchor the bottom cord. You see some swelling there. You see some exposed rebar. Nothing that with some repairs we could fix it and make it a lot better than what we see here. So not any major concerns with the substructure. And it's also founded on bedrock, as previously mentioned. As we were digging through some old photos, we came across the damage that was done during Irene. I don't know if any of you remember, but it appeared that a tree went through the bridge. There was a lot of debris that was coming. I think it was on August 9 or August 11, something like that. Almost 15 years ago. And you could see the tree that went right through the bridge on the inside. And when we looked at the opening of the bridge, when we look at how much flow is coming through the bridge, we had some concerns to the available capacity that the bridge has underneath and not being able to pass it. On the north approach, there's a low point. So at any time there's flood, I believe the water is going to come over the north approach before it even gets it to the bridge. But there's limited freeboard on this structure. We looked at the FEMA flood maps. They show a lot of freeboard. Actually, there's a mistake on the FEMA flood maps. They have an elevation difference that doesn't jive with what we've measured in the field. So we've done the hydraulics and we kind of determined that at the existing condition, at the 5th-year flood, we have essentially no freeboards, meaning that you have no space between top of the water elevation to the lowest part of the structure. So anytime you have any major flood event, a lot of debris is flowing down the brook, and this is what happens. You have a log, you have a tree that's going to come through the bridge. We have a lot of steel beams underneath it, and those beams create a lot of obstruction. So anytime you have the debris, those beams kind of trap it and they don't let it flow underneath it, and it comes on the top, and that's what happens here. So for rehab alternatives, we looked at the condition of the bridge, we looked at the remaining service life, and we have some recommendations as to what we need to repair, what we need to strengthen in order to extend the service life. For loading, we're looking for snow load for 16 pounds per square foot on the ground snow load. Once we adjust it for the roof based on the slope and the slippery nature of the roof, we reduce that down to 31 pounds per square foot. The wind load ended up being around 14 pounds per square foot. And for the live load, we have 4 different loads that we looked at. The designation is from H15, H20. H means there's only 2 axles. HS, it's HS15, HS20, there's 3 axles, and we have a graphic later on that we're going to show what that configuration is. But what it comes down is that we're looking anywhere from 15 tons to 36 tons to support. for the bridge to support that weight. 4 different options for the traffic loading. Portals, we recommending that all the siding gets redone and the framing for the portals is redone. There's some extensive work that we have to do here, so by the time the contractor gets here, all of that siding, it's already damaged and it's gonna get damaged even more, so you need to get it replaced. And we're gonna replace it with a local species. On the roof members, we're gonna recommend that you replace the standing seam roof. We mentioned the issues with the roof, with the connectors that exposed the rubber gaskets have been breaking and there's a leakage that we've seen to the upper members of the roof. So we're gonna recommend new standing seam. All the roof boards will likely need to get replaced. And then we estimate in 8 rafters that we've identified that needs to get replaced. So we're still retaining some of the historic fabric with old rafters. Upper bracing, majority of that needs to come out. It's been hit all the time. We have 2 cross beams that we need to replace, and you can see the percentages there. 2 cross beams, all the upper bracing, and then the steel knee braces. We're gonna recommend to put them back to timber and better connection between the upper members and the truss. This is an elevation view of the west truss. We're showing in red all the members that need to get replaced. You can see part of the bottom cord, elevation view, and the other view down below. It's a plain view of that bottom cord. Consists of 2 plies, so both plies have to be replaced. And 4% of the truss members will be replaced, and 12% of the vertical members are going to get replaced on the west truss. On these truss, I mentioned earlier the top cord where we had the tape with the rod, so that top cord needs to get replaced, the vertical next to it, and some rework on the end of the trusses where the end diagonals come to the bottom cord. And you can see the percentages there, 22% for verticals and 29% of the truss members. Floor system, the existing floor consists of 2 different steel member sizes. The outside ones are 24 inches deep and the 2 inside are 21. You got some steel channels, you got the nail laminated deck, and then 1/2 inch of the runner boards that run on top of the nail laminated deck. So for recommendations, we have 5 different options. The first 4 options consist of steel beams. They have different sizes for different loading, and then for the decking is going to need to get replaced with new decking. If we go with any of the steel beams, I just want to make it clear that we're not going to get any freeboard to that 50-year flood event, because the steel beams have to be largely the same depth as the existing in order to carry all those different live loads. So I mentioned the H truck and the HS truck. The figure on the left shows the H truck. You got the 2 axles, and you're looking at H15, which is 15 ton. The front axle gets 20% of the weight, the back axle gets 80%, and then H20, again, it's 20 ton. The HS is 3 axles, and you're looking at 27 and 35 tons. So 4 options, 15, 27, 20 tons, and 36. We also have another option that we're thinking outside the box here to literally put concrete deck beams inside the bridge. We've presented the project to the Historic Covered Bridge Committee from V-Trans, and they don't have any objections on this option. The beauty of this option is that the depth of those beams, it's a lot shallower than what you get on the steel beams. You save about 1 foot. So if we go with the deck beams, with the concrete deck beams, you're going to save about 1 foot, and you're going to get 1 foot of freeboard from the 50-year flood to the lowest part of the structure. So that's the main advantage. The other advantage is that it's a smooth bottom. So we mentioned the steel beams. If I go back on the previous slides, you could see between the beams, there is a space that it's a snagging point for all the debris to get caught. But when we go to the deck beams, it's a smooth bottom. So any debris that's going to come or flow into the brook is gonna come right underneath it and hopefully not go on the top. And we also have 1 foot of freeboard on the concrete deck beams. So those beams would be casted at the controlled environment. They're gonna be done at the precast plant. The contractor is gonna need to bring them in, and there's a small closure board between the beams. They're usually 3 to 4 feet. I think we're using 3-footers here. We have 4 of them. You stack them up together, and then you do a closure board between the two. We also gonna recommend a curb on either side, because we want to keep the traffic away from hitting those knee braces, the diagonal members that come on the top, that constantly get hit. So if we neck them down to 11 feet, we're going to keep the traffic defined at the center of the bridge and not being able to go on the side and hit the truss members and the bracing members on the top. The vertical clearance, that's always been an issue. So existing, you have 12'8". Proposed is gonna be 13.3, because we have a shallower superstructure and we're proposing to elevate the timber trusses. The deck surface is gonna stay the same. The beam seats are gonna change because we have a shallower structure, and then we're gonna elevate the superstructure by 7 inches. So you're gonna get 7 inches. That was the most that we could do to provide more vertical clearance for any oversized vehicles that are potentially gonna go over this bridge. Substructures, mostly small repairs, nothing major. Once the repairs are done, we're probably gonna stain them and seal them with a gray color that's gonna make everything uniform. If you do a repair, the patch that you're gonna repair, it's gonna have a different color, so you wanna paint it, you wanna stain it in the end, so everything looks uniform and it's not like a patch job that was done. Right of the way is 3 rods. We have relocation of overhead lines that we need to relocate, need to coordinate on that with utility owners. We mentioned the high moisture content. For that, we're gonna recommend insecticide and fungicide. So that's a coating that you spray onto the timber. For fire protection, the first one that we recommend is the no char. So that's a fire retardant. You spray it onto the bridge, and it increases the flashing point of the timber, so it doesn't burn as easy as you would otherwise. And that's very minimal cost to do this spray on coating to all the timber members to prevent any fire damage in the future. Protect the wire, that's a detection fire system. You essentially run a wire on the upper members and the lower members. So every time that wire is gonna sense any heat and it changes in temperature, it sends a signal to the fire station, and the fire station would know that there's a fire and they'll respond. The bridge is very short and there's good access on either side. So usually you wanna do that if you have a long bridge that's not easy to get to, if you have a fire in the middle, you wanna fight it as soon as you can. But if you go with a protector wire, you need to run an internet line and you need to have power. So there's gonna be monthly fees that the town would need to be paying to the utilities to keep that system going. And there's also other maintenance fees that you have to do. So it's really your decision. At a minimum, we recommend the no char, which is the coating that we apply to the timber members. Sprinkler system, it's not recommended on this bridge because it's fairly short and you could gain access on either side with a fire apparatus to fight the fire. Lighting, normally the bridges are very dark. This one got the windows, and the town could choose to do lighting, but it's not really recommended on this bridge. On the third bridge on Falls, it's longer, it's darker. You already have some light, so we do recommend it on that one, but on the shorter ones, you have good light coming in from each end and also from the window opening. Traffic control, we talked a lot about traffic control last time we were here for a local concern meeting. So the 2 options that we have is to build a temporary bridge on the upstream side. The temporary bridge is going to be around 90 feet or so. And on this plan here, you could see the impacts on adjacent properties, that we're going to need some temporary easements to construct the approaches and construct the temporary bridge. There's additional cost if you go with this option, because you have to build another bridge to fix the bridge. And then the turning movements for the driveway on the bottom right of the screen are going to be a little bit difficult. They're not going to be able to make the left turn. They're going to need to to go right and then turn around and then come back and go the other way. Just the way that that driveway comes in, it's not a 90 degree to the road, it comes in at quite askew. And there's just no way to make it work. If we put the temporary bridge on the downstream side, it wasn't really feasible. The bridge has to be a lot longer. You have steep slopes, you have a retaining wall that you have to deal with, so it was much more extensive work and much more expensive than this option. The other one, well, we'll go over the cost first. So if you go with a temporary bridge, that table there shows a breakdown of cost of all the different components from roadway, erosion control, bridge, engineering, everything you name it is there. So you're looking anywhere from 2.1 million to 2.4, depending on which option you choose. The town share with this would be 5%. So you take 5% of that. The recommended one is alternative number 5, that's what we recommend, and so 5% of that is just over $100,000 that the town would be on the hook for to pay if you go with this option, what we're recommending on our work. The other option with the traffic control is to close the bridge and then detour the traffic for about 6 miles on asphaltine roads. That's a class 4 road. It's narrow, it's gravel on some sections and steep. But if you go with this option, your share is gonna get reduced from 5% to 2.5%. If you go with this option, and you don't have the cost of the temporary bridge that's adding on to that cost too. So with this option, there's another table for the cost. The bridge cost for the recommended option gets reduced to 1.7 million. And the share for the town is just about $43,000, 2.5% of that amount. Something for the town to look into and consider as to which way you want to go with all those different options. So for a summary, the existing bridge is good for 10 tons based on our load rating. We recommend an increasing the vertical clearance by about 7 inches. We have repairs and replacement on various members. We talked about all the different options. And the limits of work are gonna be about a couple 100 feet. There's gonna be some improvements with the way that the storm water is gonna get handled through the project. There's gonna be new signage, a new steel back timber guardrail that we recommended. So we're gonna pause here for a few minutes. We'll take any questions and then after that, we'll go on to the lower Oxbrook cover bridge. So maybe start with Mike Ford
I'm
first.
sorry, what is your name, please?
Joseph. Yes.
Okay.
Oh. So maybe we'll go with the select board first.
Sure, so I have one, the concrete decking. Versus, or concrete support and decking versus steel and wood. What's the useful lifespan comparative?
So the concrete itself is gonna have a service life of at least 75 years. What you're gonna be limited with is the timber members, the cover bridge itself, and the design life, the expected design life for the whole project is around 40 to 50 years. But the concrete itself is gonna be for 50. Steel would be the same. If you go with steel, they're gonna need to be galvanized beams. Right now, they're just unpainted steel beams that have been rusting. If you paint them, there's a lot of maintenance cost that comes along with that. You have to paint them every 20 years or so. So if you go with the steel beams, the cost that we provided is for galvanized steel beams. So we expect that there will be a 75-year service life for the steel or concrete, but you'd be controlled by the timber members, which have 40 to 50.
No, I don't really have too many. You answered quite a bit of it. Okay, for now.
Lydia?
I just remember about the curb with the concrete proposal. There's a fair amount of pedestrian traffic through the bridge, and ideally you try to go through when there's no cars. But if you happen to be in there when there's a car, I was just wondering how wide it would be and if there's any safety issue for people trying to get out of the way of the cars.
You could walk on the curb, they'll be a bit safer. I think the curb is just over a foot.
Okay.
Just over a foot, so you should be able to walk it. It's not
Oh, yeah,
ideal.
make it better.
Walking surface should be 5 feet, 4 to 5. We don't have room for that.
No, we
They're
don't.
just narrow.
Yeah.
But they'll be safer than what you have there now,
Great.
walking on the same level to where the traffic is going, so that's intentional, that's why we're necking it down, so people could, they're also gonna slow down, because sometimes they just speed right through it, they wanna
Yeah.
get from point A to B, and then they forget a lot of the implications when they go fast.
Yeah.
So it's two purposes, it's gonna provide a small walking surface.
Yeah.
And it's also gonna make the drive-in a little bit easier and slow down, so it's like a traffic calming measure as
Yeah.
well.
Great, thank you.
We could also look into narrowing it down to a 10-foot lane in the middle.
11,
No, it's 11 right now.
yes. So yeah, we're going from 13 feet to around 11.
No, I thought. maybe
13.7.
we could just cycle off. Curve's bigger, but never mind.
You gotta-
Yeah, 11 is the
There was
minimum,
no balls,
you
too.
don't wanna go any narrower than that.
What was that, Tim?
Snow plows.
Anything else, Lydia?
They're too much.
For right now.
John,
No, I don't have anything, thank you.
Mary?
I'm very pleased to see the interior is being raised. I live down there. And they do race through there and people are rude and think they can do two in a time across. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to see that kind of interior.
At the very end of the presentation, Kelly's gonna go over some other things that you could do. We, at the last meeting that we had, one of the questions that we got was what kind of technology is out there to detect oversized vehicles. So we have a couple of slides on the end of the presentation to go over that.
Thank
There's
you.
other options that you could do in addition to what we're already doing,
All right,
not to steal your thunder.
anyone in the audience have questions?
On the curbing, when it comes to the plowing.
Can you please say
snow
your name
removal,
first before you?
Jim Cannon, with the curbing in the bridges, when it comes to the plowing and snow removal in the winter. Is that gonna like deter the ability of the plows to remove the snow and keep it clear for the pedestrian traffic in the winter time?
So I don't know how the road agent fears this, but I imagine he doesn't go through the bridge with a snowplow, right? He probably backtracks, he puts the blade down and then
They currently
backtracks
dump
it.
it off before they get to the bridge.
Right.
And then once they get in, they plow out the other side, vice versa.
So it shouldn't be any snow on top of the curb because you got the covering. And I don't believe normal practice is usually for the snowplow to go through the bridge and just push the snow from one end to the other, and they don't do that.
I know that usually there is some snow buildup on the ends of the bridges. There's no way to avoid it.
Right.
You know, the best they do when we have a heavy snowfall, we always end up with some snow and ice
Number.
buildup at the end of the bridges from traffic, et cetera.
Yeah, what we're proposing is not ADA compliant sidewalk, anything like that. The existing road is too narrow and there's no room to have a sidewalk there. This
Yeah.
is just something incidental that's happening as a result of necking down this. We provided a small walking surface.
My son's bringing up an observation of it may slow down the amount of cars that are burning out in the bridges too.
Concrete deck.
With the concrete deck, they're not gonna be able to burn out as easy as they can on the wood.
When we presented the project to the Historic Cover Bridge Committee, some questions that came up, I don't know if there was anyone from the town that meeting, I don't remember anyone from the town, but some of the questions that we got from that committee was if we could put a timber wearing surface on top of the concrete deck. And we had some concerns with that, you could do that, I don't know how long it's gonna last, because you're gonna have moisture trapped right below it. And those timber planks are gonna constantly rot, and that moisture is also gonna cause some issues with the concrete deck. So from our perspective, we recommend that you have a bare concrete deck. It's gonna have a texture to it to not make it slippery, but not put any timber plankings on top of that. We still need to go back to the Historic Cover Bridge Committee and close the loop on that. We've had some discussions, but I just wanted to mention that in case you had not heard about that, and what your preference would be if you care if it's bare concrete, or there were some other concerns, if we could stain the concrete, make it look brownish. you could definitely do that. It's gonna add more cost to the project, but it's something that could be done as well.
Any other questions right now?
Stephen Coley. For the closure, how long a duration were you guys thinking?
So if we go, this is gonna be one season, no matter what.
Right.
We have 3 projects. The way that we envision the schedule working, depending on what we do with the traffic control, more or less it's gonna be the same, so. You go with lower first, you do that one season, whether you do detour or whether you do the temporary bridge, you do that in one season. Bundle the projects, you have one contractor that's gonna do all of them, so the first season, they're gonna do the lower. And then the second season. We need to talk with a contractor and see if they could actually do both projects, lower and falls on the same season. Or spill into the second season, so they're gonna need to have 2 crews, and there's very few contractors. In the state that have that kind of capacity to undertake 2 cover bridge projects on the same season, so we need to do some homework, we need to ask some local contractors and figure out how they could do it. But the second season. You either would do both projects on the same season, or you do one, and then falls is a third season, so it could be anywhere from 2 years to 3 years. When you're all said and done, and depending on the traffic control. If we use the temporary bridge, we size the length of the temporary bridge at 90 feet to also use it on the lower, so you use it here first. And then the next season, you take the same temporary bridge and you put it on the lower. And
So you're thinking do it that in November or April to October, essentially?
October, just to be on the safe side, so April through October.
Okay.
So with the closure, you're not gonna have any traffic during the winter months into the gravel road on Hasseltine.
I do have a question. If you were to do both the second and third covered bridge, there's at least 4 residences between those 2. And so you would.
You need to finish this first before you take on the other 2 projects.
Right, but if you did both of the other 2 at the same time, you would have to have that bridge for those
We have
4 residents.
Chandler Road that people are gonna be able to go through Chandler Road.
No, there's 4
They're talking
residents.
doing the first and second one at the same time, not the second and third.
Oh, okay,
So upper would be
All right.
first,
okay, yeah,
and then lower and falls would be.
that makes sense, okay,
Right, so people are not getting trapped between upper and the lower.
right.
That was a big question the last time.
John, can you see if there's any online questions?
No.
Nobody's.
Any other questions? Yes.
Just a comment on your lighting, the third covered bridge, which is what we're on, the third covered bridge and then the lower bridge. A lot of conditions, you do need lighting in that upper bridge, the third covered bridge as well, with more lighting in the first covered bridge. There's a lot of pedestrians, you come into them at certain times of the day, and you do not see people on those bridges depending on where the sun is. So,
So yeah, definitely on falls, we do recommend the lighting.
yeah, there's
On
two
other
lights in that.
ones,
correct.
yes,
But
2 street lights that have been mounted on some of the members.
Yeah.
Not ideal, you could do a lot better, you could do LED,
Right.
you could put it on photo cell, so. You could time it when it gets dark, that would turn on by itself to save energy, and the LED doesn't use much electricity. Alright, so Kelly will take on the next one.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So it's very good going after Joseph because it's catch 22. He sets the bar really high with his presentations, but he also explains things really well. So hopefully this one, we'll run through it a little faster, so. I've seen Kelly, Levine. Haven't seen my 12-month-old in 2 days, so I'm here to get home. All right, so this is Lower Cox Bridge. It's the next one down. As a heads up, you can see that with this one, there's a bit of a larger opening. There's more vertical clearance there between the bottom of the bridge and the channel down below, so. We're not gonna have the same hydraulics issues on this one, so. This bridge constructed in 1872, also has had 2 rehabs in the past in 1967 and 1979. And then was listed on the National Register in 1974. It is also a clean post truss, so it's got that bottom cord, top cord, and then two main diagonals off to the side, same as the last one. It's a little bit longer. This one's just over 60 feet. With 15.5, give or take, horizontal clearance, and again, that 12-foot posted vertical clearance. Weight limit on this one is 12 tons, for single axle or 15-ton tandem, and 21-ton gross. And, it also has those concrete faced stone abutments, or, sorry, slightly different than the last ones were concrete reinforced. These are concrete faced, so slightly different there. We also looked out and have a couple historic drawings of this bridge as well, which is really helpful when we're, looking at things back in the office, so these are some of those old record drawings. This bridge is also rated at a 4, which is poor condition. The deck condition's a 5, which is fair. The superstructure again is a 4, which is a poor condition, which is driving our overall condition rating, and then the substructure is a 5, which is fair. And then the channel condition down here is a 7, which is good. We'll go through some of the deficiencies that we noted during the inspection, very similar to the other bridge. Our metal roof on this one has some rusting and leaks. It has those similar nail attachments that are problematic. The roof boards, rafters, and rafter support beam, we noted slits throughout those members, couple breaks in there. You can see some pictures of those on the left, and then that big break down the middle on the lower right picture. We also noted rot and insect damage on some of those members. The upper bracing, so the picture on the left, we're looking up at the roof. You can see the knee board is detached. It's no longer attached to that cross beam. So we also noted splits and breaks in these members, and again, rot and some insect damage. So again, truss members, we have those big diagonals, top cord and bottom cord. Once again, we noted splits and breaks throughout, rot, and again, we had the high moisture content, which I don't see the moisture reader on this one, so I don't remember exactly what the moisture content was on some of these, but it was higher than we'd like to see. And then this one, just, I don't know if you can just point to where the break is on that. Yeah, I think that's the bottom cord there. So we noted a pretty big break in that bottom cord. But similar to the last bridge, your live load is being carried by the steel beams, not these cord members, luckily. These cord members are just carrying the weight of the timber itself, its own load, and then the snow load from the roof. So, yeah, you're not driving over that. Again, the steel beams are past their useful life here, so we noted a lot of corrosion down there, a lot of rust. They're in poor condition. You can see the lower left-hand corner, that's the bottom flange. So that's the one that's closest to the river, and it's got all this pack rust that's starting to make the flange kind of spread out and flake apart. So not an ideal condition. The upper right, that's at the bridge seat, and you can see there's all sorts of debris underneath there, and that diaphragm holds the beams together at the ends. There's some pretty substantial corrosion going on. So these have done their job, and it's time to replace them. On the approaches, we have some drainage issues on this one. So the way that the approaches to the bridge are kind of coming in, the water's just flowing down the river, down the road, getting to those ends and kind of saturating the ends of the bridge. So something we would look to address when we're working on this project is to make sure that the drainage has a place to go that's not at the bridge ends. Then this is I don't know if I can show this video. I need to click on it.
Yes.
Here's my mouse. Here we go. So this is the underside of the deck. And that's what happens when a car goes over it. So I'll play it one more time for fun.
You feel it when you drive home.
Yeah.
When you go over it.
Yeah. So it's not attached very well. So that's something we would look to fix. Oh, now I'm just making, hold on. All right. So abutments, this abutment, these abutments here, so they're concrete faced. So there are these stones with some concrete behind them, and then they've had this facing attached to the front of it. So it looks like a smooth surface, at least in parts. But what's happening is some of that concrete facing is coming off, and so we have some big voids and falls. And when you have these round river stones that they use for some of these abutments, it doesn't have that angular surface that concrete likes to attach to, so they tend to break apart. So there's that going on. There's also the lower right picture there, you can see those are just some like concrete blocks that are used to support the end of the bridge. So not typically what we like to do. They're holding up for now, that's great, but something we'll want to fix. So rehab alternatives, this one, rehab is definitely feasible, so that's good. And the bridge loads are similar, so a 60 pounds per square foot ground load, 31 for the roof. A wind load of 14 pounds per square foot. And then the live load is the same as the last one. Doesn't make sense to change the live load rating on a bridge for one bridge and not make it the same on the other. So we've got the H15, the H20, the HS15, and the HS20 on this one. So same as the last bridge. So top down recommended work here. Once again, when we start to get into the truss members, we have to take all that siding off. The siding is kind of in poor condition anyway, so instead of trying to salvage it, it's just easier to replace it all with fresh siding when you're in there working on all those truss members. For the roof, we would replace that metal roof with a new one. Replace all the existing roof boards. Those have had leaks over the years, so get those out, replace those. And then we've identified 5 rafters, so it's about 5% of the rafters be replaced. And then 1 rafter support beam. So 8% of those. This is a top-down view of the lateral bracing, so this is the bracing that's in that roof. And the recommended work there is shown in red. So you've got 2 cross beams, 29% of your cross beams. There's 2 diagonal braces at the end there, so you'd replace both of those. And then this one has timber knee braces already, so we would keep the ones that are in good condition and then just swap out the ones that are in poor condition, so it's about 7 of those. And then strengthening them as well, so all of them will get strengthened, but only if you need to be fully replaced. This is an elevation view of the north truss. And again, since these trusses aren't carrying live load, it's the same truss replacements for all of your alternatives. Again, you can see in red, just minimal replacements. I think that's just a nailer board, so no truss replacements actually on this north truss. South truss, where that big break was in the bottom cord, we'll replace that. It's about 16% of the truss members on that one. Your floor system. So again, we've got steel beams in this bridge. They're all the same size. They're all a 2484 with a nail laminated deck. So that's what's out there now. I mentioned at the beginning of this that here you have more of a hydraulic opening, so we don't have those same concerns about freeboards. So for replacement, it's a little different. We actually have room to put in glulam beams, and so Joseph mentioned that we met with the covered bridge committee. They have a whole priority list of how they like to see repair and replacements happen. And in this case, we could take out the steel components and put in these glulam beams, which is a more preferential repair treatment for them. So we're taking up the steel and we're putting it back to timber. It's glulam, so it's not the same in like historical context, but it is timber, so they like to see that where they can. So we've got the room to do that, so that's something we could do here. we would replace the deck with a timber deck, runner boards, and we would add timber curbing to this one instead of the concrete curb like the concrete.
Would you be narrow too?
Yeah, I can't see from here, but I think it's the same. It's 11. Yeah, I think our goal with the three of these was to keep the vertical clearance and the horizontal clearances all consistent. So when you go through one, you know, usually you're driving through all three of them. So there would be a consistency in the size of the openings. So.
But on this one, you have a little bit more room on the sides, more than a foot than what you have on the upper. You have maybe 2'6" or so on each side. So more room to actually walk behind the curb.
So yeah, same kind of truck schematic as before. With the 2 axles versus the 3 axles and the various tonnage with those different configurations. The difference here and your alternatives here are really in the depth of how tall that glulam beam needs to be. So depending on your alternatives, 1 through 4, you go from 27.5 to 35.75 inch deep glulam beams. So they get pretty tall. Yeah. And as I just mentioned, the vertical clearance would also be increased at this one for that same 13.3. So you have a uniform clearance. So if you can get through one, you can get through all of them. And that would be increased from the 12'10", which is what's out there right now. Truss bearings, we would replace those truss bearings with something a little more robust. And then for this one, the east abutment is in pretty poor condition, so we actually recommend replacing that completely with a new reinforced concrete abutment. You can see all the spalling and damaging down kind of by the water line, so yeah, we would replace that one. But the west abutment would just require some repair work. Right away is the same for this one as the last one as far as the width goes. Because we would be replacing one of the abutments, we would need a little bit more room for staging and access. So the temporary easements required at this site would be a little bit bigger than the last one. We have utilities that are in the way, so we'd relocate those. Similarly, the treatments to prevent the moisture and the bugs. And the same fire protection recommendations that Joseph went over. So the no char, the protector wire, the sprinkler system. This one, again, not very long, easy access on both sides. So sprinkler system is not recommended. Protector wire, you probably don't need here, but you could consider it. And then the same with the lighting. So just to recap, we've got a 12-ton live loading on this one, so it's a little bit more than the last one. And our proposed project would increase your vertical clearance to that 13.3. We would replace and repair various members of the superstructure and the substructure. One abutment would get replaced, the other one would get repaired. And we're looking at about 275 feet of roadway work, and so that would fix some of the drainage issues on either side. And then we would add new signage, appropriate signage for the location, new guardrail, and a temporary bridge during construction. Which, I don't know, my slides got a little bit out of order, but anyway, so this is the temporary bridge. Because this channel kind of flips, now we're from the same side of the road, but now we're on the downstream side of the bridge, downstream side of the river. Because your river goes up and kind of comes back around, so but the same side of the road. You can see the red hatching is our right-of-way impacts for that temporary bridge. So those are temporary impacts, not permanent. And we kept the span of that temporary bridge the same so that the temporary bridge being used at upper could be relocated down to this one lower for that second construction season. They could just use the same one. So this is the layout for that. And one other slide to everyone should be able to access that temporary bridge where it's located there. And then, oh my gosh, Okay. I had LASIK done, but I don't think it's that good, so. If you use a temporary bridge, the town's share of the project is 5%. Which, depending on what alternative you select, is anywhere between 172 to 174, 172 to 174,000. And that's with a 5%. If you chose to do an offsite detour, it would be the exact same as the other one, so you'd have that detour for 2 construction seasons, but the bridges would be open during winter, so you're not driving this detour during the winter. Just be in the summer months while we're under construction. And once again, that detour, it reduces the town share from 5% to 2.5%. You also eliminate the cost of the temporary bridge, which they can be pretty expensive. So your 2.5% share is 75,000 to 77,000, depending on the alternative. And I think you have packets with the numbers in there that look really more legible.
Not much.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I got for Lower Cox. Can start with questions from the select board.
So I'll start with the question about the lamination, lumber being used versus concrete versus
Steel,
steel.
yeah.
Service life.
Service life, I don't know the service life of glue lam.
It'll be the same.
Even with the glue lam, it would be the 75.
The new structure is gonna be 75, anything new that we put on, but you would be controlled by the cover bridge itself. The repairs on the cover bridge at 40 to 50-year design life.
Got it?
Yeah.
Tim, anything?
This one is a little bit more costly than the previous one because we're replacing that east button. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
I don't have any.
I asked.
It's okay.
You asked my question.
Questions?
With the bridge sitting in a hole and you redo the abutment, will it like lift it and take care of your water drainage in problem at the same time? Or will the abutment take care of some of that? Or are you gonna change the road bed and drop it some or?
We're gonna
Or are you
introduce
gonna
it.
mitigate that?
We're gonna introduce like a low point further away from the bridge. Right now, the low point is at the end of the east approach, all the water comes down. So the video that Kelly showed earlier, that's where all the water is coming on the end. When you drive over it, you feel it, your wheels just kind of sink in when you get to that end. And the photo earlier that showed all the debris, all that water is causing all that issue on the end of the bridge. So we want to eliminate that. So what we're gonna do, belt and suspenders, we're gonna change the low point, move it further out, and then daylight it on the side slopes. We also gonna put a trench drain before the timber deck. So any water that comes, that doesn't make it to the low point, because the road is, you can't change the elevation much. You got the railroad there and you got driveways, but you have belt and suspenders. You have the low point that we're trying to move it, and then you also have a trench that's gonna catch the water, so it doesn't make it to the end of the timber deck.
Makes sense.
No.
Travis Blodgett, the line of sight of that bridge is pretty hard to approach. And with the narrowing of the new bridge, like meaning that it's gonna be a little bit narrower in width, has the line of sight for traffic been clear, like look at from that?
So the way we're gonna handle it, that dimension at 11 feet that was shown, it's right on the center of the bridge on each end. We're gonna flare it out. It's not gonna be, you're coming from the existing pavement to 11 feet. It's gonna have like a section of the curb that's gonna be 10, 11 feet. It's gonna flare out to funnel in the traffic. Well, when you get in the bridge, it's gonna be 11. On each approach, it's gonna match the opening of the entire bridge, which is just about the opening of the pavement. So when you drive in, you're not gonna come suddenly to 11 feet opening. It's gonna be.
Well, it's more the approach of the bridge, because you gotta drive more towards. The road that goes. When you're driving up towards uppers, whatever lane. You have to drive more to the right to be able to see if there's any traffic on the other side.
Right, and not much we could do there because you have an existing alignment on the bridge. We only replacing one abutment, not the other one. So you can't really change the direction.
No, I'm not saying change it, I'm just wondering if the narrowing of the bridge, if that's gonna be, like, if that's been looked at, that's all.
The wall, the exterior walls of the covered bridge aren't coming in, those are staying the same, we're just putting curbing in to force traffic to the center. So yeah, it's staying, whatever the width is right now, is staying the width between the walls of the covered bridge. That's not changing, it's just, there's curbing in the middle so that you are forced to drive towards the middle.
So you, when you're coming in, you should still be steering mostly on that side of the curve, so you can see right through it. And then when you get in the middle, you're gonna change the direction to get in the center. We're not making it worse, it should be better. Yes.
Hi, Pat Porter. I'm curious, is this project still originally at the first meeting? It was talked about a 5-year time frame. Is it still in line for that 5 years?
Laura?
Yes, currently it's still in line for 5 years. That being said, the budget is a little fluid right now in the Town Highway Bridge Program. So it could get pushed out a year. It could get pulled in if the condition of the bridge worsens. But that's right now, we're planning to start in about 2031.
We get to attack the last one, and I appreciate all of you coming here tonight, spending the evening, the beautiful day today, spending the evening here with us. Appreciate it.
Sorry, do you think that that will hold out for 5 years, the bottom of that? That's deteriorating so much.
V-Trans does the inspections every year, so. So they're monitoring this, and we review their inspection reports. If we're in the area, we always look at this. Kelly got a project in Berlin that she's working on, so she's here all the time, so. We are all looking into this, and if condition changes drastically, we're gonna talk with V-Trans, anything that we see. I just want to emphasize that with all the issues that we've shown here, the bridges are still safe to travel over them based on the posting that on each approach. We're not trying to scare anyone with all those different notes that we make in and showing the photos. We're just trying to show the need for the project, why the project should be done. So they're still safe to be traveled on. So similar to the other two 1872 construction, this one had another rehab in the 40s and then in 1968 and 1979. So again, the last rehab, it's been 47 years since this structure saw anything major. The bridge is a 2-span configuration now. Previously, it used to be a single span, the whole 140 feet, it was a single span. So when we're looking at analyzing it, we are scratching our head as to how some of the truss members had different forces, because when the span was single span, the whole thing was sagging. Now that we put a pier in the middle in 1970s, and that pier kind of changed the configuration and the loading, how the loading went from one member to another member. So there was something interesting that over time, they built that so long, it was trial and error, and they tried 140 feet, didn't work, and then they ended up adding the pier. More issues with the heavier traffic back in 1870s, the traffic was not as heavy, now it's getting more heavy, so things have been changing. So this is a town lattice truss, 140 foot long, the horizontal clearance is a bit wider at 15 foot 5, and the vertical, it's posted for 12, it's a little bit taller than 12, but it's posted for 12. And the posting on the east approach is for 10 tons. Substructures, we have reinforced concrete pier in the middle that was added in the 60s, late 1960s. Stone abutment on the west side, and then concrete abutment on the east side. Again, some old plans that we previously found from V-Trans files, always thankful to get all the information to review it and piece it together as to what was happening at different times. Similar condition to the other two. Overall, it's a 4, deck is a 5, superstructure is a 5. and the substructure is the force. On this one, what's controlling is actually the substructure down below that's controlling overall rating to a four condition. Similar issues to the other two, we have brakes, we have some rot, we have a lot more insect damage on this one than the other two. I don't know why, but there's not as much vegetation on this one that's coming in from the side. There's a lot of Japanese knotweed, a lot of invasives, and that kind of promotes the ants to work their way up into the upper members. And you can see all the small holes where the carpenter ants and other insects are causing the damage on the upper members. The bracing, it's really rough. You get hits all the time. You see the photo on the left, a lot of scraping, a lot of oversized vehicles that go there. Before the meeting, I visited this project too, and I actually saw some additional members that had fallen down and the town took them off, and the bracing is actually very limited on the upper portions of this. It just gets hit, it falls down, and then you take it off, and we actually have one bay with no bracing, and then we have the two bays on the east approach with only a single brace, not the diagonal bracing, and the X bracing on either side. Truss members, we have some photos here on the top two photos, the upper cord member. You see the split on the one on the right, the one on the left, you could see the two plies opening up. The photo on the lower left, you see a lattice member, you can see daylight right through it on that split into the member. And then another butt joint between the cord pieces that's opened up just over 2 inches and right through the connection there. Steel beams, not as bad as the other two, but a lot of rusting, a lot of section loss into the steel, advanced corrosion as well. Similar issues on each approach. On the east approach, you could see it just makes me cold to see those photos with us. We had enough snow this year, so that was the best photo that we had. But you see a lot of water that's ponding and working its way to the end of the deck. And we want to fix this too. We want to introduce some low points and then put a trench drain on the end of the deck to pick up any water. Abutments, the one on the east side needs to get replaced. That's the photo on the upper right. The one on the upper left, you can see the stone abutment. The abutment is beautiful. It's founded on bedrock. The only issue with that is the concrete that was poured back in the 70s. There was a concrete cap that was poured on top of that, and it's just falling apart. You can see the photo on the lower left with the round aggregate that Kelly mentioned earlier. You don't get that interlock in with the cement. Pier in decent condition. There's some spalling. There's some exposed rebar on the photo on the lower right of the screen. Similar to the other two, we believe that the rehab is feasible. We can repair, we can strengthen some members. The loads are very similar to the other two. Snow load is the same, wind load is about the same, and the light load, we have all those different 4 options. Anywhere from 15 tons to 36 tons. And we're gonna get into the cost too, but going from 15 tons to 36 tons, there's not a major cost. It's only the material cost. The labor is mostly going to be the same for the contractor to do all the work. They still need to mobilize, they still need to shore the structure, do the work. So the only difference that you see on all those tables that we provided is really the material cost to have a beefier steel beam or a beefier wooden member. The labor more or less is going to be the same, and that's the bulk of the cost on the project. So if I was a town, I would probably pick the option that gives you the most capacity on the bridge, and then you have some reserve capacity. Maybe you don't post the bridge for 36-ton weight limit, you post it for something less, but you have all that reserve capacity, which the bridge is going to last a lot longer if you do that. Portals, we, similar to the other two, recommend replacing all the siding due to the extensive work that we have to do to it. Roof members, a lot of the replacements that we need to do on the town lattice members, they need to be installed from the top, so a lot of the roof needs to be taken off. The roof needs to be replaced too, so we're gonna end up with most of the roof boards. We have about 14 roof rafters, 20% of the roof rafters that we have identified to to replace them in kind with similar sizes and species, local species. Upper bracing, when we had done the inspection a couple of years ago, you could see there were a lot of members there. You could see the X bracing everywhere. And in two of the bases I mentioned, there's no bracing now. And then on the other two, it's only a single bracing member, not the X bracing. So we recommend that all of that gets redone. We have one cross beam that we need to replace, and then strengthen the knee brace connections on all of them. Trusses, you see here a lot of replacements on the north truss. Red is the replacement, and purple is a small amount of repair due to the condition. So anything in red needs to come out, get replaced, and there's a couple spots with purple for repairs. South truss, maybe a little bit more than the previous one, and a lot more replacement on the lower cord members. The main view on the center of the slide is the elevation view, and the one on the top is the plane view of the upper cord members, and then one down below is a plane view of the lower cord members that identifies the exact locations where we have identified to replace them. Floor system, you got 33-inch deep steel beams, similar condition to what we talked. You have a nail laminated deck. You have the 1.5-inch rounded boards on top of that. When we did the inspection, we couldn't put a ladder, so we had to rope climb it. And one of our inspectors there, you can see on the photo there, just hanging from the ropes, because otherwise it was not any other way to get to those members to look at them in a close proximity with the arm's reach to be able to see all the different deficiencies. So for the steel stringers, we have, again, 4 different options for different loading, but the steel is going to be galvanized steel. It's going to be the height is going to be the only thing that's going to change from option 1 to option 4 based on the loading. The deck, it's going to get replaced with a blue lamb deck. New runners are going to be white oak, 1.5 inches thick, and then we have a curb in here too, just like the other one. And here you can see the different sizes of the steel beams that are going to carry the load for 15 ton all the way over to 36. So you're changing from W21, which is the designation for the type of steel, 21 inches deep, to 24 inches deep for that last option for 36 tons. So you're only changing 3 inches in height. It's a little bit more weight. You're going from 101 pounds per foot to 162. So the cost is not that different. It's just the material cost when we're looking at the project cost. The vertical clearance, we gain a little bit more on this one. We're going from 12.11 to 13.9. So we're gaining about 10 inches on this one. We should post them all the same. The other ones were 13.3. That's what we were showing earlier. But anything that we would post on each approach is going to be the same posting. That way it doesn't cause any confusion. But if you post it for 13 feet, if you have an oversized vehicle that's over 13 feet, you have 9 inches room to play it safe. So you're going from 12 to 13, so it's an improvement. Or you could keep at 12. You could always keep at 12. And you know that you got 39, so anything over 12 under 13 should not cause any damage. Another beauty of the curb is that we keep in the traffic on the center of the bridge. We're not keeping the traffic on the outside where it's going to hit those diagonal members, the knee braces. Truss bearing, all of them at 6 locations, 2 on each abutments in the pier need to get redone. Substructures, the stone abutment, mostly repairs, putting a new concrete cap on the top of that. The east abutment needs to get replaced due to the condition. Similar to the lower bridge. The pier, you got some issues with some exposed rebar, some spalling. You can see some cracking on the lower part of the cap of the pier, but that's something that could be repaired and fixed relatively at a low cost. This is the layout of the proposed work. We're going to put some riprap, some stone fill around the pier, around the abutments. there's quite a deep ditch on the upper right of the screen here. On the northeast quadrant, there's a ditch that the water comes over and the slopes are very steep. So what we're proposing on that one is to put a drain pipe and then bury that pipe and have a flatter slope. And the rail right now, when you drive over from the east to the east to the west, you can see that the rail is leaning over because that side slope is very steep. So we wanna flatten that slope, redrive the rail, and then also that ditch, you're gonna fill it in. You're gonna have a pipe where the water is gonna run through. Detour a little bit different than the others two. It's not as bad. The detour is relatively in decent condition. It's only 5 miles, another 9 minutes. So basically on Chandler Road and then back on Route 12. So relatively straightforward on the detour on this one. No temporary bridge. There was no point on looking on the temporary bridge because it's only another 9 minutes and the detour is much better condition than Asseltine Road. Fire protection, utilities right of the way, very similar. The right of the way is 3 rods. Some overhead lines need to get relocated. We recommend insecticide, fungicide, the no-char, the fire retardant. Probably not sprinkler system. If the town chooses, you can do the protector wire and definitely lighting that we recommend on this one too. So just to recap everything, the current live loading analysis that we've done shows that you have a capacity for about 12 tons. It's posted for 10, so you have about 2 ton reserve capacity. The vertical clearance is going to increase from 12.11 to 13.9, and we have variety of replacements and repairs on the trusses and steel is going to get replaced. Approach work is about 275 feet combined on both approaches, and we have some improvements on the drainage, rail, and signage. And we recommend the closure of the bridge with an offsite detour. For cost, you're looking anywhere from 5.4 million to 5.9. And the town share is anywhere from 135,000 to 147,000 at 2.5%. Right. Any questions on this one?
Yeah, I had one question. I'm trying to keep it in my head, so. What we call the third covered bridge is what you call the upper one?
Sure.
Yeah, and so there was. What was the amount of space for pedestrians going through there? There wasn't any, if I remember correctly, you had to walk on top of the curb. Then
It was just over a foot.
yeah, and you walk on top of them.
Yeah.
And then what we call the second covered bridge was, there was quite a bit of room. Now, what is the space for pedestrian and the,
So the curbing will be 12
First
inches.
coverage.
It's gonna be timber curbing that we're showing, and then I think you have another 1'6" behind
okay,
the curb that you can walk. So you don't have to walk on the curb, you can walk behind it.
Yeah.
So that's another protection that you have.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
walk in.
all right,
This one is a little bit more, I think it's around a couple of feet on this one, on Falls.
Yeah.
Falls has a little bit more room because it's a little bit wider.
okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Also, Tim, with you? John?
No, there's a drainage ditch that you're talking about filling in. Is that part of the drainage for the town? For Northfield Falls? Does it just go?
Yeah, so there's a driveway here.
Falls.
There's a small drive here to the building here. And there's a ditch that runs this way. So that ditch is very steep. So what we propose is on the drain pipe, I think it's around 36-inch drain pipe, if I remember correctly,
36.
and then fill it in. That way you don't have that one-to-one slope that's kind of eroding and failing every so often. And then
A 36-inch drain pipe or something like that.
Yeah.
And bury it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what you already have on that drive to that property. You already have a 36-inch pipe that the water runs through it. So it goes from open ditch to a drain pipe to open ditch.
You just
So if you don't do
That
that,
also fixes, there's a culvert over the state highway that comes
Right,
from the other
that-
side,
that
which
carries
is a
that
two
water
by two box, I believe.
so if you don't do that, you really have to build a wall parallel to the road to keep that road just sloughing out and the rail leaning on the side. So we felt that this was a fairly inexpensive fix to carry a longer pipe. And then you bury it and you have a very flat slope.
Yeah,
Right now, it's like 45 degrees, 1-to-1 slope.
I just heard you wanna fill in that ditch and I thought, wait a minute. There's a lot of water going through there.
It is.
Other than that, I don't have anything.
You know, so very.
Yeah, I'm sorry, awesome.
Yes.
David Pearson, could you just explain to me what you really mean by, the 3 rods?
So a rod is 14.5 feet wide, so 3 rod is like 49.5 feet. The width of the right of the way that the town owns.
Okay, so
Which
wait,
is centered on the road, it's usually centered.
is
It's
it
those
24 foot 6 inches from the center line.
Yeah, so it's this line here and this line here. That's the width of the right of the way that the town owns.
is it 3 rods from the center on each side?
No, the whole.
Or
width
just
is
the
3
total
rods.
width?
Total.
Okay.
So from the center is 24.5.
Yeah, 24
Yeah.
foot 6, 24 foot 7.
Thanks.
It's just a odd measurement that they used to do back in the old days.
Yeah.
When they built the covered bridges.
Yes.
I live, Jim Cannon, I live immediately on the west side of the Lattice Bridge, the Falls Bridge. My driveway is immediately at the end of the bridge. How much impact is this construction on this bridge gonna be for my driveway?
Yeah, so we're gonna need to make provisions with the contractors to maintain access to all properties at all times, but there will be times when they will need to talk to you if they deliver steel beams or if they have a major activity coming down, they will need to coordinate with you the timing. And you may not be able to get in at sometimes on the driveway there, depending on what they do and when they do it. But the contract requirements would be to maintain access at all times. With
My
some
wife,
exceptions.
my wife, works with some clients, not at home that she at any given time may have to leave and go to. So she needs to be able to get out of the driveway or back in at any given time.
So a lot of communication, a lot of coordination that needs to happen when the project starts between them and the homeowners and the butters. That's critical.
Actually, half border again, so. Having lived on this road for a number of years now. It's. Pretty easy to guess that the road is not a standard width. I mean, so. When will we know what that 3 rod really means? In terms of our properties. For us, the second covered bridge is literally our backyard. And so there's some concern because we have leach fields and septic systems and things that are very close to that road.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So when the project moves into design and we really have a handle on what the limits are going to be, our right of way section is going to set up property owner meetings with probably affected property owners. During those meetings, they're going to ask you about the locations of those leach fields. We don't want to be impacting those. If we're going to be taking temporary rights from you or permanent rights from you, they will evaluate the cost of that and they will go into negotiations with you to provide compensation for that land. But we definitely will have a lot of back and forth, with our right of way folks and the PM and the property owners.
So how close to the commencement of the construction does that occur?
It happens pretty early on in the process, yeah. So I would expect in the next, couple of years that we would be reaching out a year from now. We really want to make sure we know the limits of the project first. And then we'll be reaching out.
Okay, thank you.
So the next step for us would be to do conceptual plans. V-Trans is gonna review them. We identify the limits of work, exactly how far we're going, and then we stop to go through the right of way process to allow V-Trans to talk to all the affected property owners and work out if there's an issue, if you're coming too far in your yard, there's something that we could work out and figure out what to do before we finalize the project.
Thank you.
Yes.
Travis Squad, did you clarify how many feet a rod is?
It's
14.
16 and.
Yeah, 16 and a half.
Sorry, I said 14.5.
16.5 times 3, and that's how you get your 49.5.
It's been a long day.
A few feet off, okay.
I do too. All right, Kelly will wrap it up.
Okay.
All
right. Let's wrap things up here with a little talk about overnight vehicle detection systems. So when we were here last time for the local concerns meeting, there were some questions about, what are the options out there for, trying to avoid, more impacts to these covered bridges. So we went back to the office, we did a little homework, and there are these vehicle detection systems that as a vehicle is driving towards it, there's lasers mounted on poles. There's all different systems. This is one we found that thought, might work. They're set to a certain height. And so as a vehicle drives through there, if they set it off because they're too tall, lights start flashing, the driver is notified, before they get to the bridge that, hey, you're not gonna fit, you need to turn around. In the example and the image here, there's a nice little off ramp that you can take, not necessarily the case at this site, obviously. So these systems are customizable. But what it does is it provides enough time for the vehicle to at least stop and make some better decisions before proceed, so they don't proceed through. There are also options to add like a camera system and a monitoring system. So you can just have it set up so the lights just flash and drivers know they're gonna hit the bridge and maybe they keep going and do it. But you can also set it up so that the town is notified, there's a camera, it takes a picture of a license plate, and then, local law enforcement can do what they need to do to, issue citations or whatever you want to do there. The cost for setup just to get this system in place is a little over $100,000, so $125,000. It would be set up for all 3 bridges. And then depending on, cameras and monitoring, that kind of stuff, there's an ongoing maintenance cost for electricity, cameras, monitoring, that kind of stuff. So there might be variable maintenance costs depending on what the town wanted to add with the system. So, and maybe Joseph can help point out some spots for me, but you can see the yellow pins. Hopefully those are the 3 bridge locations. And we coordinated with one of the companies on a potential layout, and this is, kind of what they sent back, but we could certainly work with the town for the right fit. Where you have a warning system, ahead of the upper bridge, which is, I think you guys call it the 3rd covered bridge, the first one up the road. So you'd have a warning system. There wouldn't be, a detour that they could turn off of with that setup. They'd have to find a way to turn around before they got to the bridge as they're headed towards it. There would be 2 other warnings at the end of Chandler Road, so whether you're going north or east or west, I guess, north, south, whatever either towards the lower and falls, there'd be 2 warnings in there, depending on what direction you took. And then there'd be another one before you get to falls as you're coming out of town. So pretty elaborate setup if you were to do that. If you wanted to provide a vehicle to turn before it hits upper, you'd have to have the warning systems ahead of Asseltine Road, so it would actually be in the town of Berlin. Would be, because it's, Joseph and I were looking at it today, and it's right, that intersection is right over the town line with Berlin, so we'd have to coordinate that with them, but that would be another option if you wanted them a little further away from the bridge. So I'll pause here for a second. Is there any questions on this? Yeah, go for it.
Would the cost of this be entirely the town?
It might be a participating cost. I would have to, or Gary would have to talk to FHWA about it. Yeah, it might be, might not be.
Okay. Yeah, that seems like it would be important for us to
Yeah,
figure out, and then,
the maintenance would most likely be on the town, like,
Yeah, that
the
would-
maintenance cost with it, yeah.
are there communities in Vermont that have this?
I don't think so. I think this company
Anybody?
did a project in Maine
New
that we
England?
worked on.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, not in Vermont, that we were there. The company that we transpose system, I think was the company that we reached out. They have not done this in Vermont. What I've seen in Vermont, I've seen like a steel brace.
Yeah.
That's been done in the past. Town of Linden had one done not too long ago and recently got hurt. I heard on the paper the other day they got hit. So nothing like this that I'm aware in Vermont.
Who got hit?
The steel
Crash,
brace,
right.
a truck went right over it and ripped it right out. Yeah.
Rip
Did
the
they
truck
go
or
through the
rip the
bridge?
beam?
No, it ripped the beam down, but it severely damaged the truck.
Yeah.
Did it go through the bridge too, or?
No, it
Stop
stopped.
it? It's like, oh.
But there's a lot of liability concerns with the town,
Yeah.
you know, lawyers, they're gonna find a way to blame anyone, because now you put in an obstruction on the road and someone could get hurt, and when that happens.
You'd also need 3, you would need a number of them because you have 3 bridges, so.
I'm trying to picture how visually disruptive this system would be to the
It's,
feeling of the historic bridges and.
yeah, I mean, they're not right at the bridges. They might be at the end of Chandler Road just because the proximity is so close,
Yeah.
but it's a pole with lasers mounted on the top, so like
Yeah.
you don't see it's not like a force field.
And you won't see the flashing unless you're in a big vehicle that's.
Right, yeah, so you'll have the signs there, you might have like a solar panel if you want to solar power them, that kind of thing, so. There'd definitely be some changes, some more aggressive signage, but it's not like a force field of lasers that you're driving through.
I don't know how the cameras would be more effective, like we have tried cameras, but it's very difficult to actually. Get the right photograph
Mm,
and be able to tie it to a vehicle in a way that we can actually go after them and then
yeah,
insurance, like it's a whole.
yeah,
This system, you could mount the camera, you would take a photo, and then you could go on your app, you're gonna get a notification from them saying that the vehicle just went over the bridge, and you would send you the photo.
Right, this would be more tailored, because right now
Yeah.
we're getting photos of everything.
yeah. And you would know that the vehicle is oversized, right?
Yeah.
Because you have a data point saying like it's over 13 feet or whatever and it's going through, so,
It's here to go out.
yeah. Cause it's not gonna go off when a sedan goes through it.
I can think of at least 4 houses right there who are not gonna like sirens and flashing lights and things.
Are there sirens or just flashing? Like-
You-
No sirens.
No sirens?
No
You can do
siren.
Sirens too, but probably not right.
I mean, we're about as close to the road as we possibly could be at the end of that bridge.
You said you're at the end of the second bridge.
We're on, the false storage side of this.
I don't know what we can see.
For the laser warning system, Royal to Lake, by the way, for laser warning system, those are set to alert a driver at the posted clearance of the bridge.
Yes.
Well, you can set, I think you can set it for whatever height you want it to be, but yeah, we'd set it for the posted.
The reason I ask is I've known truck drivers
Mhm.
who think, well, it's posted at that, but I know there's more clearance.
Yeah, yeah, I think at a certain point, you just have to, there's only so much you can do, you know, if a driver wants to go through it, they'll go through it, but the goal of this is to reduce that. If you have a light that's not flashing until you drive through it and then all of a sudden starts flashing, that is hopefully a little bit more of a serious thing. Yeah, we did a bunch of research on this. I don't think there's a perfect solution for you.
Yeah, I doubt there's a perfect solution.
So where would these lights exactly be posted?
It depends on the configuration. That's something we could work with the town on. On the approaches, you have a little bit more wiggle room, but between the bridges, I mean, they're gonna be pretty close to the bridges because between a lower and falls, there's not a lot of room there.
So that would be the red symbols here with the exclamation mark.
That
would be the
right at the ends of the bridges.
Cause they're so close to one another there.
And
On the approach to upper, they can be a little further out.
this is only an option, right? Not something you are doing.
Oh, yeah, this is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an option.
Yeah.
Whatever, that's another option.
Crash bar.
Well. And I don't know, I mean, sorry, I'm thinking out loud a little bit, which is always dangerous in a public meeting, but, you know, if you're coming down Chandler Road. You get to the end of Chandler Road, you really only have one option, which is to go over covered bridge to the north or a covered bridge to the south, so maybe we could push those warning lights out a little bit further, so they're, you know, where they're not. Right in someone's front yard, you know, where they can be.
Chandler.
Hmm?
Could just put them right on Chandler, you're gonna come off of it anyway. Both bridges are roughly going to be equal height,
Yeah.
so you hit that, it's like, actually go either way anyway.
Yeah, I would imagine you're probably not getting a lot of your big trucks coming down Chandler, that doesn't really make sense, it would.
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've turned 3 around in the last
Really?
year.
Okay,
Dark trailer trucks.
so, yeah, like, this is just, you know, option one, there's lots of options with this, so.
It's a lot of delivery trucks, believe it or not, try to.
On Chandler, interesting.
Well,
Well,
they're
they have to
coming from-
deliver things to the people on Chandler Road.
Oh,
So-
yeah, okay, I'm thinking through traffic, so yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense, okay. Yeah, I don't want people getting too scared that there's gonna be flashing lights in their front yard, so this is. Any other questions on this before we got like 2 more slides to go, and we're all done.
And those would only go off if they were alerted anyway, right?
Yeah, they're not going 24/7, it's like a big truck rolls through and they would go off, yeah. Alright. Our schedule, we kind of touched on this a little bit, so this is what we're thinking for right now, which is. Scoping report, this is the last phase that we have to do in our scoping phase, so we're gonna go home, wrap up our reports, send it to V-Trans. And then Will Tanner is gonna move into design phase, where we, you know, start working out all the details, calculations, and pulling plans together. Which we anticipate in the fall of 2029, those will be complete. They'll go out, for advertisement, which is when contractors can bid on them, and then construction is currently scheduled to begin in 2031. Yeah.
Yeah, the cost estimates in here are 2026 costs,
Yes.
not projected for just knowing that. The. Reality of the Main Street Bridge project, like what we started with planning for,
Mhm.
and is there a way through this process to? Better plan for the actual costs that the town might face?
So what I'll say about the Main Street Bridge project is that over 3 years after COVID, we saw 60% inflation in construction inflation.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we can't foresee the future, but a normal inflation rate is, say, 5% per year.
Yeah.
But that was I mean, unprecedented.
Yeah, and we hope that it's over, but.
Yeah.
So basically, there's not really, we can't predict the future, but we know it will cost more in 2031, and if it sounds like there's a potential of it being pushed further, is that correct?
There could be, yeah. But I would, at this point, I think it's safe to assume 5% per year.
Yeah.
And we can give you what that out year cost
And
is.
is there a chance that there wouldn't be funding, that it would be entirely on the town? Is that a reality we need to consider?
These bridges need work, with a superstructure in poor condition, and these are programmed projects. I wouldn't imagine that these would be removed from the program.
And they're historic, so they have a certain
So that-
priority for that.
Yeah.
Can you explain to me the 5% and the 2.5% that the town would incur?
Yes, so prior to 2012, the Town Highway Bridge Program, the town share was always 10%. So it was 80% federally funded, 10% state funded, 10% town funded. Act 153 of the 2012 legislative session said that if you rehabilitate the bridge instead of replace it, you get a 50% reduction. And it further said, if you detour traffic, or if you don't construct a temporary bridge during construction, you get a further 50% reduction. So with a rehabilitation project, you guys are already down to the 5% town share. The state picks up the other 5% or 7.5%. So with a detour project, you get that further 50% reduction in town share. So that's that 2.5%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So following up with what Lydia was asking about updated costs, when could the town anticipate real hard anticipated costs for this project?
Well, I mean, we can do our best, but it's when we get a bid from a contractor is when we're gonna have a hard cost.
So you have presented costs now, and that came from,
That's the engineering estimate from Hoyle Tanner.
got it,
No,
And-
that's based on conceptual costs as well. I
Right.
mean, when we get to final plans, which you will have a chance to review, that would actually review and everything. They'll be more detailed and, it'll be more robust.
so I guess from a planning perspective, the 5% a year, we need to factor in.
Yeah, we should at least start anticipating that.
All right, thank you.
One more question about if we went with the temporary bridge, is the cost of the temporary bridge entirely the town, or is that shared costs?
That's a participating cost.
Okay.
Any other questions from the audience?
Brian Tisdale. So we're looking at 5, maybe 6 years before we start. Do we anticipate having to do any emergency repairs in the meantime?
Yeah, take this
The
one.
one that I mentioned earlier was on the Opera Bridge. When I was here before the meeting, I saw some recent vehicular collision damage on the south end. On the downstream side, so southeast end.
Of the upper bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw some damage. I went underneath it and I saw some shifting on the bottom cord. So I
Right,
think,
yeah, I just hit on that corner.
Yeah.
No.
yeah. But I'm gonna go back in the office and I'm gonna review the previous photos I had, but at a minimum, we probably gonna recommend some blocking be added underneath it.
And then it's a pretty hard hit coming out of the second bridge as well, when we saw the video. Are we confident that that's gonna last 5 to 6 years? Without having to do some emergency repairs?
The bridge will be inspected every year from V-Trans, as we mentioned earlier, so every year we're gonna monitor it and we're gonna keep an eye on
So
it.
we may end up having to put some money into it before
Yeah.
any of this, okay.
To be honest, when you have those collisions, you need to reach out to bridge inspection, bridge inspection, having come take a look at it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't foresee, bad driving.
And this is not the first time that corner has been hit.
Oh,
I've
no.
been here other times, and that corner is the one that always gets hit.
And we're not narrowing the bridge itself, but we're narrowing the approach with curves, correct? Because even now, a plow truck with a wing on it, I mean, it can't be hard, you can see the scrapes. It's gonna be almost impossible to get through there without scraping now with a 10-wheeler so that's not gonna change. But, yeah. But we're going to 13.3 for height.
Yep.
And then
33 on the upper and the lower, and 13.9, if I remember correctly, on poles.
And we will increase the weight capacity as well to a certain degree.
Depending on which option you go, we were from 15 tons to 36 tons.
And I'm clueless on this, how much, like a 10-wheeler with a load of stay mat, what is that?
10-wheeler is not gonna fit geometrically, like horizontally, vertically, it's not gonna fit the weight of those bridges.
Okay,
I think it's mostly the fuel delivery trucks, some of the smaller fire trucks. and
concrete, not gonna.
No.
Ever get.
Concrete is not gonna fit for that, concrete truck, no.
So we're kind of limiting ourselves, because these are gonna last for 50, 60 years probably, so. We're kind of limiting ourselves as to what can, I mean, when I built, we got concrete trucks through there, but. Well drilling truck and so forth, but now none of that's possible, so.
All right. That's it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And this presentation was in our packet, is that correct? It's online is what I'm getting at. The presentation was in the select board packet,
Today.
or the ones that are in a packet, did it have the same information?
Are available online, that was on.
Just for the audience, if you are trying to remember details from tonight, these are in the select board packet, so you can find them online.
Next item on the agenda is Royal Delegate. He is the planning commission chair.
If you're leaving, please make sure you sign put your hand on the sign-up sheet before you go. All right, thank you.
Wonder if we should give them a minute. Give them a minute.
Well, you've done this for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My name's like pulls out of the nation. Maybe you can see the.
Yeah.
That is- Are there actually?
There were a few.
Here, John, can you click on the chat? Then it's probably the A. Well, there's. We should read those aloud.
Go ahead.
Can you read those, John? Please.
Yep. I know the need for rehabilitation of the bridges and cost and detour routes are a priority. And I do appreciate a thorough presentation and thoughtful questions. So far, but I do have a question about what we can expect for the water quality of the brook during construction over multiple sites. Road residents and locals enjoy swimming in over the summer. I assume swimming will be put on hold during the construction season. Will the water quality be preserved? If so, how?
They can't work the water up much anyways.
They've got different methods of maintaining the water quality during construction season. From isolating it using copper dams if needed to filter bag or filter curtains. There's various ways that we do it. It's all kind of on a site by site basis.
I would think if there were impacts to swimming areas, that some of the swimming areas would always be open. And maybe one of them wouldn't be accessible if they were working right there for a certain time, but that,
I mean, the only one that's directly probably affected is the third covered bridge.
yeah. Sorry,
Number two,
the other one just said, please check the chat.
okay.
I think we have to be clear that people can either put, if they want them to put it in the chat or if we want them to unmute.
Rob Billy is here to talk to the select board. He's the chair of the planning commission. To go over again, you made an original presentation in the fall of last year.
We did.
And during unscheduled public participation, this question was raised about considering the town forest easement discussion of considering the town forest overlay district. So the select board requested that we invite you back to refresh our memories, and we do have a new board member here that you can give us a presentation again.
Okay, thank you for the time to update where the planning commission is on this issue regarding the town forest. To give a little history, we were approached after the current town regulation was finalized with its updates a little over, well, almost 2 years ago now. We were approached by members of the Conservation Commission to ask that additional land use protections be provided for the town forest. Under the current regulation, the town forest is not separately identified, is simply listed under the low density residential district. It's included within that district. So in looking at the options for providing additional protections for the town forest moving forward, the planning commission investigated several options. Among those were to do nothing, and that would leave the low residential district to provide options should considerations be made for activities within the town forest, and that would fall under variances or special use permit conditions. The second option was to look at easements. And there are various options for creating easements. The town can create an easement on its own. It can use a third party, which has been suggested to the select board by members of the Conservation Commission. And also to look at something separate from the town regulation, but would impose additional regulations on top of it, and that's an overlay district. And we, in the town planning commission discussions, we looked at all of the options and initially informed you that we were looking primarily at the overlay district as an option to pursue, simply because the town regulation had recently been revised and adopted. And rather than reopen the regulation simply for this purpose, our recommendation would have been to simply create an overlay district. We have language, which I believe is included in your packet, of non-regulatory, but a summary of what the regulation would say. And it's very brief. It's half a page. And it's based on the statutory definition of what a town forest is in Vermont, the purpose of a town forest. It includes those uses, which are basically recreational. There's some tree harvesting allowed in that, but it's very limited in what can be done in a town forest. And any real development, residential, industrial, commercial, is not allowed already in the definition of a town forest. So the options before you are, again, to do nothing, leave the regulation as it is, with the town forest included in the low density residential district. And anything that might be proposed would fall under variances or special use permitting. To look at easements with either establishing within the town or using an outside party such as the Vermont Land Trust, and what the implications are with that. Or to, again, look at an overlay district, which would simply impose additional controls based on the statutory definition of the purpose of a town forest over the town regulation. And would only address those lands that are within the boundaries of the town forest. So that's where we sit right now, and I would accept any questions.
Tim,
Nothing that really comes to mind right at the moment, but,
By the sounds of it, you guys are more in favor of an overlay than.
Well, recent discussions that we've had are, again, we originally were looking at an overlay district as the preferred option because it wouldn't require reopening the town regulation, which had just been completed 2 years ago. We are now looking at, in the not too distant future, reopening the town regulation for the form-based code additions that will be added in, changes in state requirements to keep current with those. And an option may be then to simply wait for that to happen and insert this language into the town regulation, identifying the town forest as a separate entity with these controls identified.
So that'd be, instead of an overlay, be its own district.
Instead of an overlay district, right?
Did we consult with CVRPC about whether this is a good approach or?
I have reached out to them.
But they haven't had comments or?
No.
Okay. And we could have. If we do either an overlay district or just have a town forest district, that doesn't prevent us from having an easement either.
It does
It could
not.
be both.
No, it does not.
And it would get for a little more protection than what we have now in terms of, like, if the select board decided to do something. They wanted to do something dramatic to the town forest
With an
right now.
With either an easement or an overlay district that limits what you can do
Mhm.
specific to the town forest lands. That would provide more protection than doing nothing and leaving open to variances or special use permit condition.
But in the case of the local zoning, it would be the municipality that could decide to change it versus.
It is, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
John?
Oh, I'm still confused. And so on. Somebody said we could do both, and I'm not sure how you could do both.
I'm not sure you'd need to do both.
If we did the easement, then it's probably not very necessary to do a overlay, right?
I wouldn't think so, no. And again, there are different ways to do an easement. The town can create its own easement, or it can go to an outside party like the Vermont Land Trust, which has similar easements with municipalities around the state.
Or we could do the overlay and then do an easement. That would make it,
Personally, I think that would be redundant.
yeah. But the overlay isn't as permanent as an easement,
It's a zoning regulation,
so it could change
It's-
whenever we change zoning.
correct? It does not lose, it is controlled by the town.
Which an easement is not. Right.
Unless you
I'm
do,
saying it more-
unless you do your
yeah.
own town easement. And put in there that you'd have to have over 51% of the voting population to change any regulations here out there for, and. I mean. I don't see why we can't manage our own property.
Right, and with an
We're
outside
trusted
party,
with the whole town and.
with an outside party easement, such as the Vermont Land Trust. What that would entail is entering into an agreement with the land trust. And there would be a requirement then to set up a forest management plan, which would be a public process. And the outside party, in this case, the Vermont Land Trust, would monitor the activities and use of the town forest in a permanent easement.
And the permanent easement. How is a permanent easement in the town forest different from an easement on my driveway?
I'm not an attorney, but I have worked with easements in the past, and to be blunt, easements can be problematic, because once you establish them, they're very difficult to disestablish
Right?
or alter them.
Well, that's what I understood. If I sold my property, the easement goes with my property. It doesn't stand with me. It stands with the land.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes with the land, stays with the land. Doesn't matter if I own that land or somebody else owns that land. They still have to have that easement.
That's generally correct, yes.
That's very protective.
It is extremely protective. That's its purpose.
Yes.
There you have questions,
No.
audience. Sir in the back.
Paul Dumpo. It seems that the intent is to protect the forest over the long term against what we perceive today as what we don't want. It seems like if the town does its own, you have to trust the town to decide. But if you go with an outside entity such as the Vermont Land Trust, it's according to their future plans and whatever. And it reminds me, I used to work with museums of families that donate valuable artwork with the assumption that it's going to be viewed, and I don't want to, that it has a specific use. And then the entity gets control of this and decides that it would be better if they sold that in order to improve this, to get the money to do that, they sell the, so it seems to me, I'm not sure I love the Vermont Land Trust, but I'm not sure that that's as permanent as it is, or as it is under control of the town as the town's own instrument, even though anybody can hire expensive lawyers and see what you can do to wear it down. So it seems to me that the town's instrument would be stronger and reflect more of the town's intent than an outside entity. Thank you.
Ma'am,
Kathleen Osgood, and I have to disagree with my husband. As a property owner with a conservation easement from the Vermont Land Trust on my property, I've had the benefit of working for over 30 years with the Vermont Land Trust, and it's been one of the best deals of my life. I want to point out that the town forest is part of this Irish ridge, the whole ridge line, and the town can't make a wildlife corridor, but the land trust could. The town can't coordinate between other townships, but the land trust does, and it frequently opens up possibilities that an overlay would, any conservation is good, but an overlay limits it to just what the town can do. But if you're thinking as a conservationman, the land trust gives you a lot more options. We have right here in the backyard, one of the finest places, and thinking of it as a continuous corridor is even a better idea than just a town forest. And, well, that's.
Lots of private landowners up there though.
yes,
Russ Barrett, I'm just curious whether any other overlay in the town plan
I don't believe there are any other existing in Northfield. And this is a fairly new instrument in this part of the country too. I have extensive experience with overlay zones when I was working in government, but I worked in Illinois and in Utah. And in Utah in particular, we use them for protection of our water sources. They were very effective in that, but it's a fairly new instrument here.
Rob is in the back.
In the back.
Rodney Elmer, this being part of the property is the town's water.
Yes.
And that makes it all the more probably important that the town itself would want to control it. Because it is their water, right? Like, nothing affects you more than being able to control your own water. And especially what goes on around it. The other thing is, I'm not sure what we need to protect ourselves from. Right? And it sort of makes a connotation that doing nothing is bad. That forest's been standing there for a long time, and it'll stand there at the price of nothing. The other thing that we did talk about at the last meeting was that if there was a forest management plan and that land trust was supposed to be following it or something like that, and we haven't really, Rose, I don't know if anybody's talked to Rose, right? She's the one that did the plan for the town. I'm sure that was probably more than 20 years ago, and you're supposed to do it every 10 years and nothing's been done. Aside from maybe working on the trails or whatever to let the public in and whatnot. Any timber or anything that came from the property, it would be nice if the monies that came from that would help maintain that. You know, and maintain what you've got going on there, especially when it comes to the protection of the water in the area as well. It almost seems like we want to do this in order to protect it from a future select board. Is that where this is really aimed? We don't trust the future people of our state. I mean, most of our people are really good. I mean, we're really good about taking care of the trout when we work on the bridge, and we're really good about looking after our lands. And this has been like a worldwide land grab everywhere kind of going on. And we're fresh off this 181 act to boot. And it just seems like everyone wants to be in control of land they don't own. And it's so nice to have options. And one of the things about the town owning the forest is we maintain our options of what we could do with it, not only in protection, but in advancement of the property as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we really need to look to someone else to do it. It just doesn't seem to make too much sense when we've got that ability. And I'm not so scared of the people of the future. If anything, we're the highest depopulation state in the whole US. Our population is actually going down. Development, if anything, will probably do a downturn here. And I'm not so sure that we're really gonna need to sell it away. And of course, this probably comes at a price it costs money to do this. If land trust were to be in part of that, or for anything, if we did anything, it probably costs a fair amount of money.
Well,
So like that has to be weighed, but
yeah,
I just wondered.
let me address your first comment first regarding the water system. In the proposed language, there is an exemption as it relates to the town water system, storage and distribution system.
So it's an area? Like, you mean,
It doesn't delineate square footage around the system, but what the town views as an essential infrastructure would be an exemption from the overlay zone as it's proposed currently.
The overlay and the easement,
Easement also.
Right.
oh yeah,
but where that boundary would be drawn, that's not something that's been decided or like honed in on exactly. There was a proposed map with the easement, and I don't know if you have one with the overlay.
I have a map of the forest, but it doesn't, it's not a very detailed map. So it would have to be specified where the town infrastructure would be exempt from this within the town forest.
how much would that cost? That'd be surveyed or something, right? Yeah, a map would have to be drawn, you have hours in it. The
I
price
can't
to be
answer
paid
that.
there,
Okay.
right?
Question. This would pick up the other town forest, or the other easement wasn't going to. I would assume,
Dustin's pasture.
the one on top of, yeah, 32. Cause we got more than one. This
Right,
is the
but-
larger cost.
Whatever is defined as town forest
Yeah,
would fall
would
under
be
these
covered under
provisions.
this one, where the easement for the Vermont Land Trust was only this one, not all the other ones.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
believe,
familiar.
no,
with what was
I'm pretty sure
proposed.
that was the way it was proposed, was it was only this parcel, not the other parcels.
I don't know whether, Norwich's forested land, like if it wasn't town forest, but some sort of other broader. Like overlay, if we'd be able to put theirs into. They've got a lot of acreage,
I don't have an answer for that right now.
just something that could be considered or looked into.
Yeah.
Debbie,
Hi, Debbie Swaro. I'm Conservation Commission member. And I've been a part of 2 successful grant writing campaigns that were responsible for adding almost $250,000 worth of stewardship and infrastructure changes, planning for recreation and recreational programs for it. So I would ask the select board to please carefully weigh the advantages of partnering with the Vermont Land Trust to do a conservation easement. And the reason is, first of all, we can customize the protections that we want for accessing our, water areas that are up in Cheney Field. We can make it work for us as Northfield. We don't have to think that the Vermont Land Trust, would be a negative. Why invent the wheel? I mean, they will cover most of the legal expenses for us as a town. So why would we want to incur that on our own? But the real reason to ask you to consider a conservation easement is because we are limited in what we can expect to get in future grant monies for the town if we don't have that protection. Nobody is gonna want to give us, another couple $100,000 to maybe eventually put a bridge or a crossing over a stream when that land is not protected for the future. And so I personally butted up against this problem. There's a Northern Borderlands grant that we can't even enter into considering because we don't have a conservation easement. Most of the town forests in this state that were created since the year 2000 have had conservation easements. So we're really in that unique position of not having one. And, I would ask you, please weigh very carefully this opportunity. Thank you.
Isn't it possible, can I ask the question? Isn't it possible that we could have easements on the part of the forest overlays on that part of the forest that he's talking about? And we could have an easement like she's talking about, and that would be the 2 things we could have at the same time.
On the same piece of land,
No.
separate pieces of land.
Separate pieces of.
I don't see why you couldn't.
Yeah,
You're saying an overlay on Dustin's pasture and an easement on the town forest?
yeah. Or we could have an overlay on a lot of nice things that we wanted.
Yeah, it's up to you.
anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Nancy Pack, I just want to point out that an easement just gives the rights that you grant to whoever. For instance, I have an easement from Green Mountain Power, has an easement on my property. They have the right to pass, they have a right to come up and deal with their poles. They have the right to be there. And I have the obligation to keep it clear for them so that they're able to access. But they don't own anything, they can't control anything, they can't sell anything, they can't do anything, it's my land. they have the right that I've granted to them, and it follows in the deeds forever, until, you know, some, I don't even know how you break an easement, serious court. Because it goes back all the way to everybody that's granted that easement before. To Debbie's point, this is not a threat to the water system, it's not a threat to the ownership. It's not gonna be sold at some point out of our control because conservation has the easement. So I think, you know, it makes much more sense to be as protective as possible for this property. And to be able to set the parameters of how we want this dealt with. Than it is just to do an overlay, which the next planning board could change. You know, the select board's willing to, they could change it. They could say, no, we only want this little bit being overlaid. We don't care about the conservation of the rest, so.
You're correct. If the select board enacts a regulation, the select board, same select board or a future select board could alter it or abolish it at their will, sure.
I could, David Mears, I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission. Thanks for having this discussion. I think Royal did a nice job. And Rodney, is that your name? Yes. So he presented a really nice, helpful explanation. I think there is this choice for the select board in the town of, do we want to tie the hands of future select boards? And I generally, you know, I'm not excited about the idea of restricting democratic process. So I don't know that I'm, you know, love the idea of a permanent conservation from that perspective. But what's tipped me over personally in favor of the conservation easement is it's hard for me to imagine that the town would ever in the future want to give up such a beautiful and important asset that has strong economic as well as environmental benefits. The practical thing that tips me over is what Debbie suggested. In my experience, I used to run the Audubon Vermont, which is a statewide environmental group, and I was able to see firsthand how the Vermont Land Trust staff were able to work with town forests and towns around the state to bring in other resources and other groups to help manage it. And I'm just, in the few years that I've been on the Conservation Commission and worked with the Town Forest Stewardship Committee, I've just seen that we've struggled to keep up with the demands of maintaining and sustaining those properties. I think it's Rodney pointed out, we would like to do timber harvest. Russ, is the former county forester, and we've been trying to work with our county forester to put in place a forest management plan. But we have a limited amount of human capacity to work on that. And so if we were able to bring in other groups through the partnership with Vermont Land Trust and apply for grants, it might actually reduce the burden on the town to maintain an asset. But with that said, I honestly, I don't want to push too hard on this. You're the elected officials for the town. You get to own it. If you feel like the town isn't going to support this, then I wouldn't do it. Because there's nothing worse for conservation than to have the community divided over it. I'd encourage you to take the path that in your judgment, you know this community best, that in your judgment is going to bring us together in a supportive way about protecting this property. On balance, the Conservation Commission leans for practical reasons in favor of permanent conservation through a conservation easement. But we absolutely support the idea that Royal suggests of doing a forest overlay if you do not do any conservation easement. So thank you. Thanks for the chance to speak to you.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
I just have two minor things to add a little other context.
Introduce yourself, please.
Okay, Mitch Olszewski, I'm the zoning administrator in town. There was some discussion about overlay districts, and I would just add that several towns also use an overlay district to help manage their floodplain regulation. They will sometimes say, hey, this is the floodplain district, these special rules apply here. And there were some other comments about just keeping a town forest management plan. And I'm pretty sure that the Town Forest Stewardship Committee does already write a town forest stewardship plan that is updated I don't, I think I saw one that's probably 5 or 6 years old, but they do write a town forest management plan. And it's a worthwhile read.
And we had, what did we have? We had a grant that helped us write the town forest stewardship plan, and it was approved in 2019. The forest management plan's older, 2005.
Yeah, Rose Beatty made the last forest management plan, when in fact it was owned by the village, not the town. And was kind of, they were eligible for the current use program, so that was made for originally. Normally those plans are updated every 10 years. Within that 10 years, town and village combined. So all of a sudden that land was not eligible for current use, so there's no mandate to have the forest management plan done. They were trying to get it done. We had a stewardship plan completed on our grant for that. But a management plan, the county forester promised to work on it. That's been 5 years, over 5 years. So we're still kind of waiting on that. And as far as timber sales go, the biggest problem is the rights of way.
Right, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
that's what we discussed,
really-
it's like there was no
Yeah,
way to get, like,
very
even on the
limited.
property. And
And
especially
we-
without working with Norwich. Is that right?
Mhm.
You had to work with Norwich if you
Yeah.
were going to do it. It was gonna require that.
Do you have another question, sir?
One other thing, if it does turn out that you end up doing a forestry type decision and you need access to it, and you have to either go through Norwich, or was that part of, did those have a plan for like landings or where the wood would come out, or landowners who you talk to in order to do it or anything like that?
He did not, which is why.
So there's a little hole in the plan there.
Good, easy way to do it.
Oh,
The
yeah.
last timber sale up there was 1992 or 3. It went out by the forest road, which goes into,
Out Barrows Road, in
Yeah.
that direction.
but the logger now, they can't make that turn. They have to look for top
Oh, yeah.
and back there.
Having an updated, like,
Yeah.
thing you want to do would be good.
Is there any more questions from the board?
Oh, I just love, if you do hear from CVRPC, I'd love to hear their thoughts and recommendations on any zoning changes.
The planning commission is more than willing to meet with anybody for input on this.
Yeah, if you said you had already reached out to them.
I haven't
Yeah, but
received
they
a
haven't heard anything
response, yeah.
back.
Any further comments or questions from the audience? Obviously, this is a very important decision the town will make. One thing that I brought up at the previous meeting was, I feel this is such an important decision. I think the citizens of this town should probably voice their opinion in a vote. I think that would be the most democratic way to make the decision. But that was something I threw out at the last meeting. I remember many moons ago, there was debate on whether to purchase the top of Payne Mountain. And I think I brokered the deal, so we got it done. And I'm always in favor of those out of the box thinkings, but maybe a vote of this magnitude should go to the voters instead of just the select board. So I think the select board needs to have further internal discussions and gather more information, like maybe what Lydia just asked for, if there's any input from CVRPC. So forth. So I'm sure this is not a settled issue. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
I think the nice thing is that everybody wants to protect that facility.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. We're gonna take a brief recess before we take up our.
Thank you all
rest
for
of
your
the-
comments. I appreciate that. Thank you, Royal.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Nathan.
Yeah. No, I do. No rainy ever.
So she has to be for.
Oh, yeah, thankful. Oh, definitely. The line. The picture's not.
Yeah. Settle down.
Oh, yeah, so that's also.
Thanks. Too long.
Thanks for
A lot of people are supposed to like the idea that town rules.
Yeah.
Now, you said they
If you look at
one thing. You can have, now can make a decision on something to do with one way forest. Yeah, anything it takes.
That's why. Which would then be to the fire.
Yeah. Yeah, see, Martha, they have a right. Veto. Anything, just. So if the town has something they really wanna do. They veto their decision. I really don't, you know, I could hear somewhere about really.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Looking at the aid and going to start.
I think it's.
It just looks like it's not very.
Oh, yeah.
But it's great.
Yes.
I want to, thanks. How have you been? Yeah.
Really never should happen, but it has to.
Yeah.
In town.
Balls in the earth. About a bunch of stuff that's just been neglected and pull it threads and then, oh, I wish I had. One thing I found is that one of my hats is on the town's E911 coordinator. And I found that. Has a bunch of problems that aren't really. There's a bunch of structures and facilities that are even easily locatable. I think when you get back into Norwood, there's some other kind of unnamed roads and.
I'm not sure.
I've kind of found some.
I don't know, I'm not really closely on it.
It was brought to my attention that there's an obstacle course back there, and it's a nice place that secretly EMS could get sent there. And it doesn't have any address. Sort all that stuff out.
That sounds like good details to look into.
One of the things that's, again, a thread that I'm reluctant to pull on, Farming Drive used to be a two-way street and then they have a one-way street. How does it one-way, the street, the houses, the houses are addressed in. Their official address, their business office is 158 Farming Drive.
Yeah.
It's on the street. I don't want to be the one to say.
By the way, yeah,
But,
well,
sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
those things don't matter until they really matter.
Manage all that stuff. And yeah, there's a bunch of properties that I'm just kind of working on, saying, hey,
Yeah.
here's what I think the addresses ought to be, let's try to get that straight.
Well, I went to the bathroom when I came.
Thanks for being here, Mitch.
That's it.
Already started that.
All the men, people.
Where was Tim? He's helped you set it up.
I wasn't there. People was over by. And they walked by me, and I'm like, can you see? Having that lady on the shoulder. Is anybody hear that? When I came, yeah, and it was like half a dozen men walked past me, and I'm like, you can't see that I'm an old lady and you can't help me with one of these things? Would you let me stay in here? Yeah, well, why should it be two of us?
One is late, but I will make them break.
All right, I'm gonna reconvene the meeting. I've asked everyone to take their conversations outside. Next item on the agenda is approval of a liquor license renewal and the outside consumption permit for the American Legion.
So.
Second. Been seconded. Any comments, questions? From the board?
I'm still a little confused by how to read these, because this one, it does appear like there are violations on here, but I'm not really sure what they mean, like how they're connected to it. But maybe it's just strangely on the first page, the bottom,
Yeah, I see them.
but I don't really know.
Yeah, who is it involved in negligent driving?
Yeah, I don't know how to take, like, how relevant it is to our decisions. But this is where maybe once we have the chief around, we can figure out the best way to make sure we're informed about these decisions.
Yes, in the past, the chief has weighed in. On any of the applicants, whether there are any issues.
The only reason I can think of that this should be on here is if somebody were overserved and then drove and then was arrested, that's how we know they were overserved.
I'm guessing that's probably what those are.
Yeah. We have them put up a sign that says if you drink here and are overserved. You can get arrested.
I don't know how you assign, like, it's the driver's fault for driving.
It is.
Cause you can serve people and you don't know whether they're driving or not, but. Yeah, I don't know, but that's why I just love better.
Are these violations or are these?
I mean, they
It
look
says
like it, they
violation-
mentioned.
Violation
court,
ID.
But then it goes on and it's still saying violation when it's listing the people that I think are just involved with the Legion, they're not violation.
Correct.
But the first, I don't know why it says. Violations and then.
Because it's for your information that these people have had violations related to running the operation of business.
Well,
Think about the people
that,
involved.
it seems like way too many, and I think the other ones always have that too, but this time there were actual. I've never seen it on the first page before with what appear to be. Court instances and dates of offense and things that hasn't been on the other ones that I've.
Civil
read.
violation.
Yeah,
Well, one was in they were in 2022, that's a
Yeah,
long
like-
time ago.
I don't know if this
Have we
means
renewed
that they get
those?
the violation because of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
So-
were bartending.
So if we've renewed the license for these people every year, what does it matter what happened in 2022?
Well, I think what Lydia's looking for is more explanation of what that is. So, and I asked that question
Yeah,
the last time or 2 times ago we did approvals, because that was the first time. So,
See him back.
so I guess we could ask the town manager to ask the town clerk
Right.
for further explanation.
yeah, will it harm this business or the Legion by not approving it tonight?
No, it is.
Yeah, then I think we should, like, we haven't not approved others.
Yeah.
So I think we should just go ahead and vote tonight and then, sort this out.
I agree.
Yeah,
So we have a motion and we have a second. Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the liquor license renewal and an outside consumption permit for the American Legion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining, 500. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes, June 3rd.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Comments, questions, Tim?
No,
Lydia? John?
I'm fine with it.
And Mary?
Okey dokey.
Very good. Further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor of approving June 3rd, 2026 regular board meeting, board retreat minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining, 500. Regular meeting for June 9th.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments, questions, Tim? Lydia? John?
Nope. Thank you.
And Mary?
I have nothing.
Very good. Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of June 9th, 2026 regular board meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining, 500. Next item on the agenda is approval of bills.
So move.
Warrant 2426, 2426, A and B.
He moved, I second.
Okay. Comments, questions, Tim? Lydia? And John?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
And Mary?
I have nothing.
We're good. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving warrant 24 through 26 and 24 through 26 A and B in the amount of $419,335.12, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining, 500. Next item is approval of warrant 0127A in the amount of $46,151.89.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions as it relates to this? Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving warrant 0127A in the amount of $46,151.89, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 500. Next is receipt of bi-weekly payroll, through June 7th in the amount of $97,656.82.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments, questions? Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of receiving of the bi-weekly payroll through June 7th, 2026 in the amount of $97,656.82, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? 500. Under select board business, approval of V-Trans Town Road and Bridges standards. Manager Mary.
Yes, this was sent to us in January and it is an update from the 2019 Town Road and Bridge Standards. The A&R and Agency of Transportation jointly updated these standards, and the major changes are in section 5, according to drainage crossings and cross culverts that move water from one side of the road to the other. They now need to be at least 18 inches in diameter. And in places that they wash out, they suggest that they be larger than that. And so these are the standards that the state is asking us to adopt.
So move.
Second.
Comments, questions? Anybody?
I have one. I just noted that those requirements, and then there's a sentence that goes, culverts that frequently plug, wash out, or fail during storms are expected to be upsized. Which I know you know,
Yes.
and I just thought I'd say it again.
I'll just make one observation. Obviously, this may increase our need for more budget.
Yeah, yep.
Not
Make
sure what
things
they've been
bigger
buying.
and better.
What was that, Tim?
So it all depends on what they've been buying.
Well, there is a potential there.
That's been a fairly. That's been pretty much the standard since Irene.
The 18.
Because FEMA won't
FEMA will
reimburse.
cover anything under 18 inches.
Got it.
So
Okay.
at that point, everything.
So we may be doing it already.
there. But you also have to be careful on how far you go in upsizing too. Because sometimes they won't, if my memory serves me correctly, they won't cover anything 2 sizes or larger, I believe, also. Because then they feel like it's being dramatic.
You're being dramatic
Yeah.
with your culverts.
Hey, it's. But.
Got it. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of V-Trans Town Road and Bridge Standards, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 500. Town managers report.
Yes, as far as public safety goes, EMS and fire have been, answering calls per usual, and, we are doing union negotiations for ambulance continually. We have another meeting tomorrow. Our new chief, deputy chief, and possibly some other officers will be starting on July 13th and 14th. So by the next meeting, we will have a police force, which is very exciting. Utilities have started yesterday, installing new meters, the new AMI meters, and will continue to do so. Other than that, we've been working on a couple of FEMA projects in finance that we're still trying to tie out and, working to get them over the finish line. And, I can't think of anything other than that that is noteworthy.
Thank you. Next item is board members' comments, concerns, questions. Start with Tim.
I was just curious on. Is there anything in the future for the fixing of the edge of Doyon Road above Whetstone?
I have,
Cause we've been getting a lot of rain lately and it's getting worse, and we just paved that road last year and it's washing out every time. Any anticipation on roadside mower coming out soon? And more so, the bottom of Union Street, the knotweed has grown into the road and has choked the road down to a lane and a half. People are driving the side of the road to stay away from the sides of the road because it's 2 feet over the sides. Again, that tree that I told you about on Upper Union. It's laid in the ditch, but there's also a ton of debris in that ditch where that tree is, all the way up through there, and it's causing erosion on the side of the road. The culverts are plugged with leaves and more sticks. There's trees down from last week on Little Northfield Road that haven't been. I had a citizen contact me about that. They cut them out of the road and nobody's been back around to clean anything up or check them. I have noticed that, more of an update from you maybe is, did you ever get an answer out of Allstate about cleaning debris off of Water Street?
yes,
You know, if that hasn't been done yet either.
that is correct, and they are finishing out their punch list at the end of this week, early next week, and I asked them to sweep the whole entire town from any kind of debris that's left from paving. That includes definitely Water Street and Vine Street and Main Street. And of course, Hill Street, Prospect Street, those kinds of things. And if I'm not happy with it, then I told them that I would let them know before they leave town, that will be done.
Yeah, and then another thing that I've got a few phone calls on as of recently is great.
Yeah.
Potholes everywhere, there's erosion everywhere from all the heavy rain that we've been having, and the roads are in very poor shape. But that's all I got.
Lydia? John?
Well, I had a couple of thoughts. Norwich just hired a new financial manager,
CFO, correct.
and so I'm wondering if we could approach Broadmeadow to see about the ones that did not make the cut.
Oh. There's potential candidates. Anything's possible. The manager, I'm sure, will take that under advisement.
I have a meeting with General Broadmeadow next week. I will bring that subject up.
Okay. I just thought.
It's definitely outside of the box thinking. I like it.
Okay, and we talked about having a highway committee meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I would like to schedule one.
Okay, we can do that. Our highway foreman is out this week at a funeral, but we can do it the next week.
Okay. And other than that, I don't have anything.
On that, I'm out of town from Wednesday till Monday.
Okay.
Of the 4th of July week. That's the scary part.
All right.
Well, I'm out of town this weekend. What do you mean? And do you want, you just need to know that?
You're
No,
not.
no,
I'm
we're
not
asking
committee.
asking you if you have any comments, questions. This is your opportunity.
Tim is on the highway committee. That's what he was saying.
Oh, okay, there you go. Thank you for explaining that. All right, the only thing I wanted to know is, is there a reason? Could it be that we might have a whistle stop in the falls instead of in the town? Just throwing that out there.
I don't believe there's any spot.
I was just about to say, can you?
I know, I can't think of one either, but I was wondering.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm all set. Public participation unscheduled. I'll go online first. Is there anybody that would like to be recognized? John, do you see any?
No.
Okay. In the room, public participation. Anyone would like to participate? Okay.
The only thought I had.
What's his
Stephen. So I was thinking back to the presentation by Laura and, well, not Laura,
Kelly.
Yeah.
Kelly. The closing the road and doing the detour. Those roads. Pretty sure they're unpaved, right?
All of them.
One of those.
As a time. But they also had it marked as a class 4, it's a class 3 highway.
So they would get torn up over the course of the full construction season. So that may be an additional cost that the
It would add
town would incur.
I think the paper said there would be some upgrade to Asseltown Road that was included for the project.
Okay.
They said that, I do remember that.
Yeah, it's on the paper.
What's that?
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, I would look for a motion to go into executive session. And Lydia?
Yeah, I move to find that premature public knowledge of discussion of pending litigation and attorney-client communications would place the select board at a substantial disadvantage, including by potentially waiving attorney-client privilege and disclosing confidential information.
I need a second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Not yet, but I will.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining, motion passes 5-0-0.
Second part is under one VSA 313A1E and F. I move to enter executive session to discuss pending litigation and for attorney-client communications and to invite legal counsel and the town manager to join.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 5-0-0. Motion passes. We will be going into executive session shortly, and those parties will have a link sent in.
Move to the Conservation Commission meeting tomorrow night, so you can take almost all of it. It'll be 5 people.
For that, are there nuts?
Conservation Commission meeting tomorrow night, so just. Yeah.
They're expecting.
Please.
No, I know.
I used to have it empty.
No, it's okay. I only took a small bite and then I thought I was.
I love white macadamia in that, they'll run.
No, they.
And are they macadamians or white chocolate chip?
My chocolate chip. That's what I.
No, not for this.
No.
Perfect.
You're good, Mary.
I can end the meeting, right?
Yeah.